Good evening. We are live for this week's midweek geek, and hope you're all doing well. Nutty, you are you do like to try and provoke me, don't you? You do like to provoke me. We were talking about school, so we just had having a little bit of a chat behind the scenes, friendly chat behind the scenes. So hello, Nutty. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Mr. Baker. I am joined tonight by familiar faces and voices in the form of Elfbait, Intellectual Quandary, Iman, and Halakar. So good evening, fellas.
Good
All
evening,
right.
fellas. Good evening, chat.
As usual, my attention is divided.
Yes. You are. Are you baking some special recipe Hobbit bread in that Hobbit hole of yours?
No, we're cooking actual goblins. So
Well, hello, Mage. Hello, Alipuk. Hello, Tiantori. Yeah, Mage. He has really done up his basement beautifully. It's taken some real design chops to get those perfect circles.
God, if I can pull this off.
Hello, Aman HK. Nice to see a busy old chat. Right. I was a little late setting things up because I was playing with this, testing this out. And I've basically worked out that this is going to be absolutely useless for streaming. These sort of chats, because I fidget too much. I move around too much. You can only hear me with this when I have it there. But that's how it's designed. So when I'm making videos now, no background noise. Isn't that beautiful? No background noise. It's a dynamic mic, and it's hypercardioid or whatever the thing. So it's only this bit here that it is sensitive to. Even if I just take it to there, I go quiet. If I go there, you won't hear me at all. It's very, very weighty, but absolutely no good when mounted on this boom that's by my head here. And I'm moving around, and I'm like 2 feet from the microphone and whatever, because it doesn't pick you up then. But when I'm doing my recordings and my read throughs, it's perfect, absolutely perfect. So been playing with that. This is an Audio Technica one. I couldn't afford a Shure are too expensive for me, but yeah, work the same sort of way. Right. Gaming this week. Let's talk about our gaming. I watched your entire stream for the first time on Monday, Eli.
Oh yeah.
I've never managed to stay up until 3 a.m. my time before, because you run it at a stupid time. I normally watch the first 10-15 minutes, go to bed, and then watch the rest next day. But I stayed up for the whole stream. I wanted to wait. I wanted them to stick that Cyclops, but they never did.
Oh yeah, they're playing it super careful. Everything but having wanted to engage that Cyclops.
Yeah, but it was a good session. Thank you, Hungar. You're an absolute star. What we really want to know is obviously your medical situation has been all over the place recently. Are you at home and are you comfortable? Yes, the microphone is sensitive on the tip. Indeed. So, are you at home, Hungar? Are you stuck? Are you still stuck in that damn hospital?
He's just too addicted to those sponge baths.
Yes. There's nothing wrong with that. A man can enjoy a sponge bath from time to time.
He's a.
So, Hungar, let us know how you are, because I know you've been you're at home. Good. Much better for you to be at home. Much better. So, any other games apart? Tell us about your with a lot of morphine. Oh, okay. So you're high as a kite again. I did see you when you were streaming with your brother the other day. Hungar was in Doolally Land. Didn't know what day it was. Oh, no, but if it kills the pain, then that's good. So, tell us about your Monday night game, Eli. It's not for me to tell everybody. It's
No. So yeah, Monday night game went pretty well. We were coming back from a long break. We were down one player. He got stuck at the tire shop, unfortunately, and couldn't make it. They were continuing from where they had left off before, which is just sort of hunkering down to try and recuperate a bit. And they were well on their way towards trying to escape. They were trying to scout out the rest of the caves that they were in, trying to see if there was another way out. And then their NPC snuck away and tried to take some of the treasure with her and ended up triggering a bunch of undead to rise up from underneath the floor of the old temple, and she got to join them.
Yeah, she did. Yes.
Kind of a dramatic moment as they ran back after hearing her scream, only to see the eye of Commit, the item they were at, after roll into the room, spattered in her own blood, and then they peeked through the door. Grumpy's character peeked through the door and saw a bunch of zombie skeleton figures of, clad in gear from throughout history in there, and then her among them, freshly stabbed through, her eyes having sunk back. And then they started to hightail it out of there. They pinned the door shut, made their way through, and then were on their way out when they got attacked by 3 giant bats that came poking around the Cyclops' cave after he had left, because at this point they had kind of hunkered down and he had left to go on a nightly hunt or whatever, but he was no longer in the cave. And we left off as they had just finished killing the bats. Because there was so much sneaking around. I mean, in 2 hours, we had that. But
yeah, it was. It was all sneaking around and trying to avoid getting into trouble and trying to work out whether the giant could fit down this passageway or that passageway, whether they'd be safe somewhere. It was all that sort of stuff. And how much loot do you manage to get away? They were trying to help themselves to loot, and
they ended up with about a third of the coin weight, the coin value. They did get away with the scrolls because those were secured, but only one of the players, he had taken a bag of like 600 coins and just dragged it into the other room, expecting to exit out that way. So, yeah, it was kind of they got away with a good amount, but not as much as they had hoped. They do still have the eye, which is the primary goal, although that is, sort of the MacGuffin that got them there, that is going to go to the sea captain.
How are you doing XP in that game?
I am doing standard BX plus second edition action and accomplishment based XP.
It's low magic and low treasure game, isn't it? So
I had to compensate for that. Yeah. And so I'm also doing XP for magic items. So I'm giving the coin value of the XP for magic items as well, which you're not normally supposed to do in BX. But because there are so few monsters and so few, treasure hoards aren't even always a thing in, a Conan type of a setting. I had to compensate something. So those BX class-based, accomplishment-based XP awards are really good. Not the BX.
So I'm guessing being a thief, Slan's probably the closest to leveling, but...
Yeah, I think he did level last time because he's
on
that Thief XP table.
Ah, right, okay. I wasn't aware any of them had leveled, so...
Yeah. If he hasn't leveled, he's like a hair's breadth away. And then in other gaming news, I got to the climax of the 5e campaign I've been running for like 3 years. They managed to actually get and kill the ancient white dragon. That was kind of a nail biter because it came down to one die roll as to whether they were going to be able to turn it from a straight up fight, which had already dropped 3 of them, or something else. And they managed to actually use a potion of dragon control to gain control of her and get her to do herself in. Because potion of dragon control I was actually even kind of surprised. It's a high level charm magic. It's dominate. It's not charm. It's not suggestion. So there's no prohibition against getting the subject of the potion to harm itself. So they told her to fly up as high as she could and then just stop. And so she flew up and dropped and smashed into the mountain and died. So,
and I'm saying, did they remember to move out of the way?
oh yeah, they were inside the mountain. She flew up through the opening at the top of this volcano where her lair was, and she's kind of splattered all over the mountain now. But yeah, they are left with kind of a bit of a quandary though, because they now have a bunch of other dragons of different, all of one of each of the chromatic dragons, all chained up in this room that this other dragon was performing a ritual on, and they're like, "What do we do with these now?" So,
yeah, so it might not just be over yet. I
Yeah.
was going to say we had three well-known names: Malachi, Dirty History and Hobbies, and Michael Stronghold amongst the 5 who've got the memberships. So nice one, Hungar. Nice one, Hungar. Richard P. I've seen him getting memberships. I've not seen him chime in, but he might have chimed in once or twice. GR seems to get memberships often, but if you do watch GR, you're a lurker. So you've had the 2 games. Iman, you had a game last night, didn't you?
oh, and I also had Cody's game.
Oh, right, okay.
I was on.
I'm so used to asking you about what games you've played, and you saying, "No, it was called off."
Well, in the last 2 weeks, I've had all my games. So
good. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
All the games. Iman, we had a game last night, didn't we?
That we did. And oh god, it's better if you tell it. Do you know what? Because there was so much that we missed and that you didn't even get to do.
That's true. That's true. And Andy is in chat, and he's one of those who plays in that game. So okay, that's the only game you've played. So I'll move on to Halakar. Have you been playing?
Nope. The 11th is my next game. I've been working on my miniatures and watching people's videos. I watched the one Janet from Another Planet did reviewing Starship Troopers. Of course, Mage's anniversary video.
And of course, you've tormented me on a few live streams as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's usually going on while I'm working, so I have you in the background.
yes. Just distracting me occasionally. Yes. Yeah, you do that, don't you? Yes. Right. Games that I've been in. We played some OSE on Saturday. Albertus, my paladin, is still annoying people, but still alive, so he's still there to annoy people. We didn't play on Saturday evening. I hadn't scheduled anything for Saturday evening, mainly because of Bear's game being provisionally penciled in, but we didn't get to play, unfortunately. Monday's game was called off. That's why I streamed on Monday. And Tuesday's game was for Iman. Andy.
I'm here. Sorry, my connection was.
And Snufflegrunt having his first go at playing.
His first little taste of the depravity.
Yes, they're playing a setting called an adventure called the Dark Crusader, which is one of the historical interludes in Horror on the Orient Express. It uses characters that aren't involved in the main game because it takes place 700 years beforehand. But the idea is that it just provides some historical context for the players. It's an often criticized interlude because there is a predetermined outcome, but there was a fair bit of freedom for what the players could do within the adventure. It's just that the outcome, whatever would happen, a certain individual would get something in his possession. Quite how he got it in his possession, there were various ways suggested in the adventure. It's odd for Call of Cthulhu because it's a very physical adventure with a lot of fighting. I ignored several of the suggested fights. For example, there's living in a cistern beneath Constantinople. There is the Anatolian dragon, famous for fighting St. George. And it does say that if they don't encounter it in the cistern, it will attack at some point. I just ignored that. I didn't really think it fitted a Call of Cthulhu game. And they managed. They were taking on a boss at the end. Yeah, there's a lot of character backstory bits and pieces that weren't touched on. And yeah, you're right there, Andy. It was. I mean, it's an interesting scenario because it's a real change of pace. The characters are tough. The characters have got armor. The characters have got decent hit points, and they've got good fighting skills and the ability to use shields to deflect blows as well as dodge. So they're more resilient. We still have the obligatory Iman character dying because the dice hate him, but that session last night, the dice absolutely loved the players. Again, they attacked the big bad guy at the end. He'd got like different bits of armor across his body, which could soak damage. It's not going to soak 2 impaling blows of 8 plus D8 plus D4 very many times, though, which is what they got because they'd all got build bonuses. And you didn't have any armor, Andy. You had a dress. Yeah. You were playing Eloise, the handmaiden, but you didn't get involved in the fight so much. So yeah, they took down the bad guy before he was able to get to his tower of horrors at the end, which would have been brutal, but they never got there and never saw it. All lots of dismembered people still moaning, one of them having his limbs eaten by this vile devil-like construct while he was flayed and still alive and partially dismembered. The party was supposed to witness something eating one of his limbs that's still attached. And these sort of things, but no, none of that actually happened, unfortunately. they killed the bad. They killed the bad guy because they rolled below 10%, which, if you know Call of Cthulhu, rolling below 1/5 of your skill is a impaling hit with an impaling weapon.
Yeah,
and they had like 60 or 70% in sword skill, so they were rolling 7-8%. It was like, wow.
Armor in Call of Cthulhu can make a big difference. I know when we ran that one shot, I was kind of a little taken aback by how effective that modern police body armor was. That when Mage was playing the sheriff,
yeah.
Like that those creatures could not get through that body armor whatsoever. Just so much soak, you know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the guy was wearing armor, which each piece of armor was 10% of soak. Was 10 points of soak, but it wasn't permanent 10 points. It was like if it took that, it would then come off pretty much, and then he'd be vulnerable. And I was having them roll a d6 which part of the body they're able to hit, and I think he took 2 hefty blows to the head. That's going to kill him. One destroyed his the armor, and the other destroyed his head. That's the way it works. He'd already had one of his arms lopped off.
That'll definitely do it.
I'll describe. I mean, the bad guy at the end was a Byzantine sorcerer dressed in a ceramic armor, and then over the top of that, he had the skin of one of the Frankish knights pulled over the top to disguise him as a knight.
Kind of gruesome.
Oh yeah, lovely. Yes.
It was meant to be a much more difficult encounter, but the dice were really on Manfred's side.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the dice. Well, the dice were Manfred and Joker both did serious damage.
And Joker, actually, yeah, we got a fucking good swing in. He did.
Everything's manageable in Call of Cthulhu with the proper application of dynamite or flame or gasoline.
Yes, our local writer of the Necronomicon, otherwise known as Iman, has lost 2 characters in the campaign. One was a descent into madness before he got shot, so he never got to take his own life. He got shot, and the other was
Yeah.
a knight in the
Well,
side scenario.
it's a side scenario. Does that really still count?
Yes, of course it does. Of course it does.
I mean,
Yeah,
well,
it was a free gem.
all the characters in the side scenario died anyway.
Yeah,
Or
eventually.
That doesn't count against them.
Yeah, well, they're in the 13th century, so of course they've died. But yeah, in the aftermath, it describes how they died.
They probably died of a hang.
No.
I have a sliver.
No, you're right. I'm just being facetious.
Yeah. But now, Iman, also, I mean, your second character in the 1920s campaign nearly died straight away, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
he was trying to get revenge, and
well, an hour into your first session, you got yourself involved in a fight.
I did.
This is why your characters die, because you.
But to be fair, right? It's not my fault that Marco the doorman with fucking 1 million in his attack kept fucking rolling over.
Oh yeah. They were honestly they were helping a doorman in a fight against some gangster types. The doorman had about 80% brawling skill and couldn't hit to save his life.
You could argue
kept rolling 90 something.
You could argue it's because of my decision making all you want, but at the end of the day, it's the dice that have to give their consent, not me.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, that's true. And my dice don't like you. That's
hey, do you know what? When I roll with the physical dice in person and show you, they're all right. But when I use Roll20 or Owlbear Rodeo, no, they just hate me.
Yeah, seems that way. Right. Anywho, we are going to be talking about how we start games, what first encounters we give to parties, where should campaigns begin, and where should one shots. I mean, one shots clearly are the world is your oyster when it comes to starting a game with a one shot. You can start your characters pretty much anywhere in a one shot. Yeah. Campaigns, I think you've got to be a little bit more careful. I mean, my favorite one shot, I've mentioned it before, Forget Me Not for Call of Cthulhu. The parties start with no memory of how they of who they are, no idea of where they are, no idea of how they got there. They don't know any of their skills, they don't know their names, and they are all in varying states of consciousness in a van that's stuck in a ditch. And I love that beginning because it really, the first hour of play in that scenario is always really, really engaging as the characters are slowly waking up and getting to know each other, even though they've been friends for years, but they don't know it. I like that as a beginning, but I wouldn't start a campaign like that. I think it would be an odd way to start a campaign, because the problem there is the characters, I create those characters, the characters that the party play in that one shot. It's important for how the game works that the players have no idea what their character skills are. And of course, if you play a campaign, players like to create their own characters. So that beginning doesn't work as effectively, in my opinion.
I think there's a lot to say for the type of campaign you're running too. I mean,
true.
The type of campaign is going to very much dictate what you can get away with as a start, and also your group. You know, if you have a group that trusts you really well, you can get away with nearly anything.
I think we first need to define the difference between a campaign and a one shot, though.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mage about this earlier. As far as Mage is concerned, a campaign is something that doesn't have a predetermined ending. A one-shot, in my opinion, is a single constrained scenario that will typically last between 1 and 3 sessions. Typically 4 to 8 hours, normally, most one-shots.
I would tend to disagree on the definition of campaign as having no specific ending.
Well, Mage had the description of a mini series for that bit in between.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people now say, oh, it was a 10-session campaign or a 20-session campaign or whatever. Mage was saying that's more. He would call that more of a mini series, whereas a campaign is just more extensive, more freedom.
They're all campaigns. I mean, honestly, they're all campaigns. It's just a longer or a shorter campaign or an open-ended campaign versus, a sort of a canned campaign. I mean, they're all forms of a campaign. I think that's the important thing is that campaign is any series of adventures using the same characters. You go back to the oldest definitions of it, that's really what it was. Stringing a bunch of modules together for the same party, that's a campaign. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to do anything. It can just be dungeon to dungeon. Or it could be, we have to save the kingdom. Here's the whole campaign. The campaign ends when you save the kingdom. Unless you want it to go further. But you can plan it to end right there. Yeah.
Well, the Dragon magazine you just reviewed said that each adventure was a campaign.
I disagree with that.
I'm just saying.
Dragon. Yeah. So
again, I will quote Dalton from Roadhouse: "Opinions vary."
Yes.
I mean, going with anything from the early days of D&D as anything gospel is always tricky because so much of that was developing then. So much of the hobby was developing. And I suppose a campaign could be one adventure, depending on the size of the adventure. I mean, truly, a mega dungeon is one adventure, but it's it's truly a campaign. And a lot of dungeons and stuff back then were kind of open. Yeah.
I think it is a grey area. I think I would class, for example, Temple of Elemental Evil as a campaign. It's a mega dungeon, but it is a campaign because it's going to take you months and months and months to get through it. Yeah. But
I think it all comes down to what's in the adventure. I mean, Keeping the Borderlands is one module, but you can get a campaign out of that easily.
Absolutely.
Lots of returns to and from
it depends how much you want to spin it out and how direct you want the gaming to be. I think with
what the players do. I mean, the players may play it careful and go to the caverns, bust a few heads, come back to the keep, recuperate, go back to the caverns, or you may have that group that just wants to press on and try and find a place to hunker down in the caverns. Yeah. So.
Yep, true. General Nut says D&D starting place is the tavern. It was mistakenly left out of the rules. Most campaigns will begin in a tavern. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And we're going to come.
Every good story starts with a few people having a few drinks.
Absolutely.
I think surviving the shipwreck is overdone. I see that happen in way too many games.
Yes. I mean, it was done well in Treasure Hunt, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
I think. Yes. But that depends how you want. I
think it would make a good alternate beginning to Isle of Dread.
Yes. I can imagine Isle of Dread being incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult if you started with fresh newbie characters.
You said starting out surviving the shipwreck, not necessarily, but you could do that because there's enough with the Isle of Dread's big enough to where you could put in a bunch of low-level encounters and low-level adventures and not
absolutely
the island.
You survive the shipwreck and wake up with no memory of what class you are. You find a pile of gear and everybody just grabs what they think they might like.
There are several undefined islands around the Isle of Dread, so you could start your campaign on one of the smaller islands where the shipwreck is. So the party gets there, gets their stuff, gets themselves established, and then it looks around and they're like, well, our best chances of surviving is to go to the big island. Now we got to get over there.
And in that one, they could start building themselves little homes and a little community. And if you're using the interesting treasures thing from a couple of streams ago, you could really have them decorate their homes as well, and it would all be really nice and cozy.
I know our characters took up residence on the Isle after we went through that campaign.
I still need to update that document for you to use, Elfbait. So bear with me on that. It's been a fairly stressful week.
There is no deadline on this. I'm running this first issue at the speed of whatever.
Okay.
Campaign starts there's so many different ways you can do it.
I mean, Redfield RE. This is one of your subscribers, I believe, because he's got a little locking thing next to him.
Yeah, he must be viewing from my end.
He is, yes. Yeah, one shots can become a lot longer than you expect them to be. I ran one of the historical interludes in Horror on the Orient Express, the Blood Red Fez, for my local group, and they were fairly direct with it, and it took them 4.5, maybe 5 sessions to finish it. So it's bigger than a typical one shot. It's about 60 or 70 pages in the book, so it's a beefy adventure, it's a beefy scenario. But I also have run it for 2 other groups who've taken much longer over the whole game, have been much more methodical, much more wanting me to describe a lot more, wanting to explore. Rather than just go and get on the train, they want to know about the place where they're waiting. Are there any people watching them? And they want to go and interact with locals a lot more than my face-to-face group did. So that was one way. It was anywhere between 5 and 10 sessions. I would still class it as a one-shot scenario, but it stretches out into a mini campaign, and so much hinges on how the players approach things. We've often laughed about it, but how adventures don't always survive being unleashed on the players, or the players. You unleash the players on your adventure, and all hell will break loose. Yeah, you just know it. You just know they're going to tear something up.
Sometimes players even like the pre-gens that they get for a one shot and want to continue with them.
Yeah. So a one shot could be a good way of starting a campaign. It depends on your group.
That's how I started my group with Call of Cthulhu. I'm like, let's just play one game. Let's play a one shot. I created a self-contained, actually played it in one night, and they were hooked. And so in that case, I had them make their characters though, just in case. But it was still, we were going to start with this one shot, self-contained, nothing long form, and it spun a whole campaign. Technically, those characters are still in that campaign. We're just on pause. So
yeah.
My wife's character, she had to go recuperate.
Well, Call of Cthulhu does that.
A lot of Robert E. Howard's older horror stories on a CD, and a lot of those are westerns, and they all involve somebody doing something and then a posse chasing after them and running into some type of haunting or supernatural whatever that they have to deal with. And I was thinking that would be an interesting way to start an adventure. Somebody commits some kind of crime in town and then flees, so the local constabulary puts together a posse, and that's how you meet your fellow adventurers. You're all going with them to bring back the hobgoblin that stole the little kids, or whatever the case may be, as an alternative for starting out the campaign. I've done caravan guards before, but that would be a different spin on being thrown together for a purpose.
Yeah. So suggestions for a first scenario. Yeah. Hunting down a criminal and guarding a caravan are good ways, to bring a party together. They are different. Oh, we keep losing Iman. Iman keeps disappearing and coming back. Is it your phone too, Iman? Is it your phone?
Yeah, no, it's my internet connection. It's raining.
Fair enough. Oh, Manfred's joined us, and you're wrong. Hello, chaps. How are you?
Hello.
And Crafting Gamer. Oh, nice to see people piling in. But yes, those are good introductory scenarios, good ways of getting a party almost forcibly together, but giving them a common early goal, and making them work together because they are assembled as a team straight away with a predefined objective, and that objective could well stretch out for the length of the campaign. That hobgoblin might well be not actually be a hobgoblin. It might be some shape changer who's disguised himself as a lowly hobgoblin, and he could be to make him think that they're just hunting hobgoblins, where actually he's away somewhere else performing hideous experiments on whoever he's kidnapped. And that,
one of the channels I watch said if you want to have fun with your gamers when you go on a food break, give each one of them a note, and when they read that note, it says, "You are not the doppelganger."
I quite like that one.
Well, and then let everyone try and figure out who is when none of them are.
There isn't one.
That's right, John Valley.
I can stir the pot.
As far as ideas for campaign starts, I mean, I've even used the Skyrim start a couple of times where people start out as prisoners, or in
you're finally awake.
I literally had them start in a cage wagon, being hauled to a location where they were basically given their equipment back and told that, all right, it was the start of the campaign too. They're like, here's the adventure you have to go on. I had them actually, in another one, I had them wake up in a longboat off the, in the middle of the ocean with a pirate ship off the side, and being yelled at, "You're going to go to the island and do the thing, or else we're going to kill you." Your stuff is in the boat. And then that way they're not starting with nothing, but it's different than like you meet in an inn. But celebrations and holidays are a good one I've used a few times too. I mean, I think campaign start and adventure beginnings are kind of synonymous too, because a lot of them are just adventure beginnings, but they could easily be the start of a campaign.
Absolutely. And people have mentioned, Majors has mentioned Mafia. I have got a Mafia game scheduled for the stream on Friday. At the moment, there's only 4 of us who've ticked our interest. So if you're watching this stream at the moment and you're interested in playing a live game of Mafia on stream, Werewolf, Miller's Hollow, whatever you want to call it, on Friday night, starting 9:30 UK time, which varies depending on where you are on the planet. I do everything by my time because it's my channel. But if you want to play in that, please, I need to know beforehand. So don't just turn up and say, "I want to play." I need to know beforehand because there's a little bit of preparation involved. So if you're on the Discord, go onto the events bit, click that you're interested. Yes, if you are. Of course, if you're not interested and nobody's interested, then, well, it won't happen. But at the moment, we could do with a few more people because some of the people who played last time can't make this one. So,
who have we got so far?
You, Midu, and Snufflegrunt.
Okay.
I haven't heard from Daniel. Hasn't done anything. It's Daniel. If you're there, if you can play, let us know. Gingerbeard's away, and Joker's got a girlfriend, so that's where he's been on all these streams.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. So that's why he's been not making an appearance on many streams or doing much.
How the fuck's he managed that then?
Joker, we love you. Enjoy it. Enjoy yourself, Joker.
What about Manfred?
Manfred? I don't know. Manfred's got a wife. That might prevent him from playing. But
it didn't last time.
It didn't last time. It doesn't usually. No.
He's a fucking good player as well. I can already tell.
I think Manfred. He's not played them before, but I think Manfred will be a bit of a dark horse at these Mafia games.
He's built for him.
Yes.
One thing, actually, no, 2 things. Sorry,
you say he's full of shit. You say he's full of
shit
because
no, he loves to talk. He's got black belt in waffling.
Yes, yeah, which is perfect for a game of Joker. A game of Mafia. Perfect for a game of Mafia to yeah. So
there was 2 things I wanted to mention before I forgot. One, Manfred said that he wanted to take his Dark Ages character into our current session because he got really into it, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Can I take Gilles into the 20th century? No, you can't, Manfred. Oh, but I really like him. And then Snufflegrunt's first session yesterday, wasn't exactly representative of what a normal Call of Cthulhu session is like.
No, not remotely. Not remotely. We've had probably 2, maybe 3 minor skirmishes before over 4 months of the game, and then that scenario you had something like 6 or 7 fights in it.
Yeah, and I think it being his first session that he took part in, he was probably given an untrue impression of what Call of Cthulhu is actually like by no fault of anyone's.
Yeah. But that's the way that scenario pans out. You were all knights on a crusade. You were taking part in the sack of Constantinople. Or at least the others were. You were the ones who just sort of managed to resist this evil force. Anyhow, let's get back to the topic. That scenario was started by players in the 1920s discovering a manuscript.
It was me.
It was you, yes. So that was almost like a historical flashback. I can't see a campaign starting like that, but it's fine to play a one-shot like that. So, there are some examples of ways of starting a game that I don't think would bleed well into campaigns. I think things like in a one-shot, you can have people forcibly arrested and for a crime they haven't committed and whatever, but I don't like that as a start of a campaign or part of a campaign, unless it's the players have got some input. I will say there, unless you any of you got any different ideas how that would work out.
I think if you're going to do that, because I've done it a couple of times, you have to have in mind an event or a circumstance that allows them to get out. There is a Conan story, for example. I believe it's Thieves in the House. I think it is. That starts with him pretty much in jail, and there's a contrivance in the story that leads him to getting out. So you can start your players there, like starting them out in jail and giving them that pucker moment of, oh, damn, what's going to happen is great. But if they're going to do the escape, you have to already have it planned that there's some sort of means that they're going to come across that they're going to get out, or have some sort of precipitating event that happens that causes them to escape. Think the Dragon Slayer movie when Galen is imprisoned by the king, and then the dragon attacks while he's in there, and it knocks the wall open. Well, then you could do that in a game. You could have the players in prison, and have whatever's going on that kicks off the adventure or the campaign, for that matter. Free them, or maybe they get pulled out because the king's like, I need some scum like you to go do the thing, but let them pucker a moment and maybe not have their equipment and have to go with what they can get from the king, or that's a way to do it. But I think outside of a one shot in a campaign, that's really the only way you can really get away with that, unless you have players that are very trusting of you as a GM.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. It depends on the level of trust the players have got and the type of players they are. How much control they like to have over their characters' actions and events, because some players don't like to be told anything.
What you don't want to do is crash on Volturnus your party. If you're sci-fi adventure, so you're not familiar, but Crash on Volturnus is an introductory adventure, or the first adventure in a campaign for Star Frontiers. It lets you go through normal character generation, lets everybody buy their equipment, all of that, and then they lose it all when they have to bail out of the spaceship and they crash on Volturnus. If you're going to do that to your players, don't let them go. Just sidestep going through the buying of the things and just say, for the start of this campaign, your starting wealth is unimportant. Pick 2 or 3 items you can have on your person, and then just accept that that's what they may get off the ship with. Because it's really kind of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
That the adventure railroads that. Now you can soften that and you can fix that adventure and allow them an opportunity to get their stuff or get to a lifeboat or whatever, and get off the ship. But that's like a classic. Yeah, I saw Halakar roll his eyes.
I remember playing that adventure when I was like 15, 16. And it's like, what the hell did we just wait all this time for?
I went through all this time nickel and diming my inventory, trying to get every last credit spent, and then it means nothing. I mean, because crash scenarios where you have to salvage material could be cool. I mean, that would be a way to do it, is to allow them to have their stuff and then do kind of like in AD&D terms, you would do like the equipment save for their items to find out what managed to survive the crash or the dragon's fire, or if you're doing the shipwreck scenario, allow them to roll randomly on some charts to find out stuff that they have. Don't just leave them naked and alone don't secret of the slave pits them.
One adventure we have mentioned already was AD&D's Treasure Hunt, which famously was the first one to begin at level 0, and I quite like the way that works. In that, obviously players have to be happy with the buy-in of starting off as a normal person with nothing, because they are being transported as slaves in the hold of a boat, which then runs aground. Most of the bad guys are washed overboard. I think there's only one left who has promptly found supplies of booze and is wandering around on the beach drunk. And the party start with nothing. But when you create the characters, you don't even give them the character class to begin with. You don't give them any gold, you don't give them any starting equipment. They basically have to use what they find, what they pick up. But the adventure does put things in there that they can pick up.
I think you have to be on the boat. Honest, though, if you're going to run that kind of a game with people. I don't think people who write those scenarios, with the exception maybe of Crash on Volturnus, don't expect you to just sit there and go, all right, guys, I'm going to screw you over. No, I think you're supposed to have a conversation. All right, this adventure starts you out at 0 level. You have to find your stuff. Your character's, future. It's a survival game. These are the key elements.
And based on how you play the character, that's the character class that the character gets. It's a little bit limiting. I think it could have been a little bit more open with some of the options in there, because it doesn't allow multi-class demi-humans. So I would change that. If I was running that again, I could say, you can play a 0 level elf, and you can become a fighter mage or a fighter thief if you've done bits of both classes along the way.
That's where the DM comes in and can customize the adventure.
Yes.
I know Manfred mentioned starting things in media res. I've done that a lot, especially in like my pulp and Star Wars campaigns. Like I had one pulp adventure game that started with a gunfight on a tarmac with the villains trying to get away on an airplane. Like that's where we started. Kind of that Indiana Jones where you're in the middle of the previous adventure when you first start.
So yeah, there's a situation already happening. How do you react? And, I mean, there's one of the big 5th edition adventures starts pretty much that way.
Isn't that the Baldur's Gate one?
I was thinking of the Horde of the Dragon Queen one. The one everyone says.
I don't pay too much attention to the published 5th edition stuff. So,
of course, I would allow multi-class demi-humans. That's what demi-humans are there for, in my opinion. That's why they were level capped, and all that sort of stuff. You're meant to make them into gadget, Swiss Army knife type characters. So, yeah, I think the classic fighter mage, elf, fighter thief, hobbit, fighter assassin, half orc are well explored characters, and that's what those races are designed to be. I'm not a fan of modern multi-classing methods, Manfred. Where players say, right, when I get to level 5, I'm going to take a level of fighter so I can do this. And then I'm going to go back to cleric, yada, yada, yada. And then at level 8, I'm going to take a level of bard and all that sort of thing. I don't mind organic multiclassing. I prefer AD&D's style of multiclassing to any of the more recent ones, where the decision for demi-humans is made right out of the gate and you are both classes all the time. Or if you're a human, you have to change your profession. And commit to it. It's this non-committal. I'll have a level of that. I'll have a level of that I don't like. So I'm not against multiclassing. I'm against the modern iteration of multiclassing in current in D&D since 3rd edition. So
I think the running man would be a fun way to start a campaign too. Everybody gets, you start out with each individual character. Somebody the police catch them and accuse them of stealing that loaf of bread instead of buying it. So everybody ends up in jail and they all get thrown in the equivalent of a game show. Okay, you start at this end and you have to make it out that end. And if you do, then we'll have a trial because you've obviously done something right or the gods wouldn't let you live that far.
A good fantasy alternative to that would be to have them all basically end up being gladiators in an arena, sort of the throwaways, like, all right, you're on an elevator, it's rising up into the middle of the arena. Go! You have like a crappy short sword and a rinky-dink little shield and, some costume armor.
imagine if you're a first level magic user though, and you're just there in a basic tunic with a little dagger going, oh shit.
Please allow me to please make sure my spells can be the material components can be found in an arena. A pinch of dust.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm there.
I'm not a fan of skill trees, Redfield. I will say now 3rd edition is my least favorite version of D&D because of what it made the game become more than anything. So other interesting campaign starts. I would class The Lost City as a campaign adventure because it's so expandable. I think it meets Mage's criteria of being almost infinitely expandable because there's a city beneath, or what's happening beneath that city, what's happening in the caves around that city. It can become something massive. That one starts with the party stuck in a sandstorm.
That would
with
be
no
appropriate.
food.
It was a snowstorm in the desert.
A snowstorm. Well, no, if it's at night.
I actually watched a thing where somebody talked about there was no desert in their campaign setting, so they took that and set it in the Arctic. It was on a YouTube channel I think I was watching.
Right. So
they're like, it was a snowstorm instead of sandstorm. But I was actually just making a joke because you fumbled. But yeah, you start out really it starts out in media res. You're in the middle of a crisis situation. You're in a sandstorm and you must seek shelter.
Yes.
And there are cold deserts too. Not every desert is the Sahara.
No. I mean, yeah. The southern part of the Andes can get very, very.
Problem is that desert is defined by lack of precipitation, and so still needs precipitation for snow.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good example of one. I feel like there's a lot of Call of Cthulhu style introductions and starts that don't get used but would work well in fantasy games. Why can't fantasy adventurers receive a letter from a dead relative or an inheritance or get summoned to an auction or all of those little starts? You inherit a house from your dead grandfather. Try running The Haunting with D&D characters.
Sorry to interject. Is Redfield RE still in chat?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, I think I've just realised where his name is from. It's an Evil fan, mate.
Resident Evil. I don't know. Well, RE might well
Redfield.
be Resident.
Redfield
Yes,
is the
yes,
name
he
of a
is.
character from Resident Evil. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, yeah, Resident Evil fans, let's go.
Just saying, most people won't be able to see your chat, Redfield, because you're in. You're typing in Elfbait's stream. You're giving Elfbait the minutes at the moment, which is absolutely fine. But unfortunately, StreamYard doesn't do a very good job of this simul streaming, sharing chat, does it? So that's a bit of a pain.
But yeah, I do think that there's a lot of other of starts that people don't normally associate with fantasy genre that would work perfectly well for D&D. Depending on the campaign, obviously. Like if you're doing an urban campaign, then a city campaign, then like any cop drama, detective story, medical drama, or whatever could be the start of your campaign. There's a plague in the city. There's your in media res. We're dealing with plague and the fallout, or maybe you start with a cataclysm. You can start your campaign with a cataclysm. Okay, the campaign begins in Pompeii on a particular day. Go from there.
Yeah, I mean, hello, Richard. I think for that sort of start, as we've said, there's got to be the trust from the players that the DM hasn't got them trapped in an impossible corner straight away. The DM's going to have ideas of how they can escape, and will obviously be open to ideas from the players. But you've got to give them that out, really, haven't you? At the start.
I've done that start recently with one campaign. The campaign unfortunately fizzled out due to scheduling, but in that particular campaign, I combined a couple of starts that I've tried. It starts out with a festival. It was an all dwarf campaign, and so all of the dwarves of this particular kingdom, from inside the hold and the neighboring holds, and even the ones that live on the surface, were all gathered back at the founding hold for Forge Day, and they were going to celebrate the founding of the thing. And so that was the celebration that drew them there. And we had a big long role play session as they, old friends came back together, and they get to the whole court assembly where the king is doing his whatever, every so many 100 years, whatever, speech. And then he puts the crown, and then they get interrupted by a NPC who's basically this evil, twisted half dwarf kind of guy who's on the outs, and he comes back asking forgiveness and gives the king the lost crown. And the king's like, this is auspicious, blah, blah, puts it on his head. He turns to stone, crumbles. The dust from him starts to waft out into the room and start turning all the other dwarves to stone. So we went from this fun gathering to suddenly this cataclysm with this whole dwarf hold panicking, trying to get away from this swirling dust that was turning every dwarf it touched into stone, and trying to get out, and then trying to save people. And then they finally got out, and they closed the doors to the hold, and then we started the campaign there. Like, what do we do now? But you could do that with dragon attack or war, or hell, if you really wanted to hit hard, your city is the gods are angry. They're wiping your city off the face of the earth. And that's the start of your campaign. And the campaign, depending on what your campaign is, that whole campaign could be spent trying to figure out what you did, who did what to piss off the gods, and what can we do to make amends. If you wanted to have a particularly story-based campaign. But
yeah. It depends. I mean, it depends on how much you want it to be hinged on a plot, or whether you want the players themselves to pretty much generate the plot through their actions, which I like, but it's hard to pull off. I find that sort of thing is easier to pull off at a physical table than it is online, because of the need for. I think there's a need for more prep when you run online.
Yeah,
people are more forgiving in breaks of play when you're sat around a table, I think.
I also think it's easier to sell a lot of the emotion that's for those higher stakes, bigger entries, bigger openings. Being in person, I think, helps a lot, because you can really just sell the gravitas and the emotion of those situations a lot easier than you would be able to when you're online.
Yeah.
Because I can stand up and go, I'm the dragon and flies down from on high. Look, I opened up a war pit in the universe behind me there. See how magic I am? Behold the wizard goose.
So how did you? I mean, how did you start your By the Sword campaign? I can't remember that first session how they got together.
The By the Sword campaign had them all on a barge going down the river towards the city of Lancia, having all basically accumulated in that spot because the end of the campaigning season was over, and so everybody was heading to the city to winter. Because they're in a northern European area, and so like fighting is done for the season. So a lot of the hired soldiers and sword hired swords are seeking work and shelter elsewhere, and that's where we started with them on a barge.
Mm-hmm.
On their way to a location. It's, I guess, it's sort of a variation, if you think about it, of the caravan guard in a lot of ways. They weren't there guarding, but they were passengers. And that's the other thing. I mean, you don't have to be the guards of the caravan. You could be on your way. I think there's a few modules that even start that way. Like, you're on your way to such and such, and this happens. So, and then, I mean, my 5th edition campaign started with all the characters being residents of the town that they started in, having grown up there. And they were all young adults, and it was a 0 level campaign, and it started with some pretty low level minor fetch quests, and literally running errands for their parents. Like the first adventure was they needed to go get a supply of water from the spring for the season's batch of beer. And then they ran
something very low level, very very gentle beginning. Hello, Mac. Hello, GM Cody.
Hey, Cody.
What was I about to? Because Halakar, you started your most recent campaign at 0 level.
Yep.
They were all inhabitants of a village who had to deal with flooding, I believe.
Yes, a dam broke.
And it's all sort of spiraled from there.
Yes.
So these are all sort of low level beginnings. What about starting campaigns at higher levels? Now, I will admit now, I don't like it, either as a player or as a DM. I like those lower levels, and I would quite enjoy playing as a 0 level. But I like that first level experience of the characters having their first taste of adventuring, their first
at higher levels. At higher levels, they could be known. I mean, if locally or farther, depending on what level they are. So at that point, they could be specifically asked for to complete a mission. You guys cleaned out the caves of chaos, so Lord whoever it is decides he needs you to come clean out the dungeon under the castle that he just inherited. I mean, your name is out there, so you're going to be specifically recruited.
Yeah. I've started campaigns at high levels before.
Or a tournament, some kind of the big joust where every fighter in the known kingdoms is going to show up to try to prove his worth.
I find it's a really good way to do campaigns that might be steeped a lot in politics, because the characters, if they're higher level, can weather the kind of resources that political factions can bring against them. Like if you're playing, the king is dead, who killed the king? If you're a bunch of 0 level or 1, first level nothings, then you're not going to be able to exert much. You could be members of the King's Guard, for example, and be 3rd, 4th, 5th level, and be good.
I guess it depends on what you want to play, but I think my main difficulty is you have to assume the characters begin with a degree of knowledge, not just about adventuring, but about where they are, the workings of the community where they are, if they're in a home community, or the workings of the experiences of more powerful, more heroic characters before you begin. And I think I prefer it where the characters and the players have experienced all of that, rather than just the DM giving a big spiel about it at the start. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The one thing that always bugged me is if somebody starts, if you're starting at higher level and you're just making your characters at that higher level, Magic users have not had to go through acquiring spells or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, look, I know Fireball and Lightning Bolt and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
When we did
How
that,
did you live long enough to get all those spells?
When we did it, we usually used some sort of homebrewed random system for determining what spells they had that simulated. I also found that the treasure tables in the back of the Fiend Folio back in AD&D for the rival adventuring parties that you would run into were really good to use for what advanced level characters would have.
Okay.
Because you can look and say, okay, it's 5th level character, because they've got some. It's been a while since I looked, but I know we used to use those. So much of this conversation really comes down to what campaign you're running, who you're playing with, because I think, and your question on player knowledge and character knowledge, I think it really comes down to the setup of the DM, how much information and how much of your pitch maybe needs to be a little bit more in depth if you're going to run a campaign where they're advanced, or you need to be okay as a DM, GM, whatever game you're running, in allowing a certain concession of knowledge for the players and being more willing to provide them with information when they ask. So your players could sit there and say, well, if I'm the king's bodyguard, wouldn't I know such and such, or do I know such and such? You have to really be forthcoming with that, and you're not going to play it as close to the chest as you would if you're just running from lower levels, because you can always kind of assume that, well, you don't know that, you haven't experienced that. Well, you have experienced that. It might even be worth some longer backstories.
And that's what I was just going to say. Well, who is going to come in as a 6th level whatever with a novella of what their backstory is? It's like, great. Take it to your creative writing class. It's not happening at my table.
Well, you can short form that, though. It's easy enough to sit there and say, he's campaigned for 15 years, under the King's banner. He's participated in a number of battles. He has. You can bullet point it and just give a general narrative sense to.
Keep it. Still, you can still keep it short. Keep it snappy.
And then that allows the GM to also look at that and make those judgment calls as to what you might have known or what you've experienced.
Yes, Manfred, the topic tonight is how to start a campaign and different ways of starting it. I think it depends on, so much depends on what genre you want to run as well. We are focusing more on fantasy at the moment because that's what we all know.
No sci-fi, John.
I don't know anything about sci-fi.
And I was waiting for you to break then.
Yes.
So, if people have...
Well, see, you start out as a farmer, and then you see this battle way up in the sky, and these droids show up on his beat.
Good evening, Andy. Good evening.
Speaking of sci-fi...
Hello.
Did I summon you with my sci-fi?
No, I was just going to say a slightly different take, which funnily enough does go into sci-fi as well. And this is really from the perspective of getting people involved running for tournament games, because that's what I got most experience with, of writing them rather than a campaign. So, for example, for a D&D one, there's a one-page description of why they've got the job they're doing, which in this example is to go and recover something from a dragon's hoard. And they are the support characters for a high-level paladin. And it gives them some detail and say, you've got to return this here, blah, blah, blah. And then when the game actually starts, they are in the middle of the fight with the dragon. So that they start running, The other way, from a Star Wars perspective, old proper Star Wars West End games, was you basically have a little script that you give to the characters. Each one has a line or two to say, and again, it just gets them into the game. It's this is where you're starting. This is what's happened. This is where you are now. Go. So it's really dropping them in running. And I know that's different from what we're talking about with campaigns and getting a background or whatever else. But it's another way of starting it, and you could do that with a campaign as well. Of basically, once you've established what the characters are, drop them right into it and get them running straight away. Just a thought.
Yeah. And we have Bear joining us as well. So I'm gonna cap it at 6 tonight, I think. So
Actually, gonna have to dip out. So it's good timing because I have my meeting coming up. So.
Of course, yeah, you did. Yeah. Right. Don't worry, chaps. Elfbait's not running because you two have arrived. At least I don't.
No,
think
not
so.
at all. No.
He did tell me beforehand that he had work. He does have work. Wednesday,
I got to leave in about 15 minutes because I got lawns to mow. So,
well, see, second
shift. We're scaring them off.
Second shift.
Let them run.
Right. Let them, folks.
Bye, Eli.
Now, there was an adventure in a Dragon magazine a long time ago, the Mansion of Mad Professor or something or another, where you're basically Boy Scouts and you're out on a nighttime hike and you get lost and you stumble across this mansion. And I mean, it's fairly, it can be fairly deadly, but I've done that as a one shot. That wouldn't be a bad way to start an adventure. You're part of a group of something, a group of soldiers, a group of caravan guards, a hunting party trying to go out and get some food for the village, and you get lost and you stumble on whatever and you need to get through it. So you form your bond of your survival bond.
Yeah, I mean, getting that bond together is key. And I'm glad to hear that Bear's made an entrance, because I was going to bring up the example of how you started your streamed game with us. Mm-hmm. A big tournament. Mm-hmm. Some people from a kingdom none of us really like, doing fairly horrific things in the middle of the tournament. And us group of reprobates really sort of bonding together over sort of reacting to them,
saving the lives of innocents,
and other weird things being told us by this strange mystical Cody character.
I find it fascinating that that's how you envisioned it happening, when basically from my point of view, it was clear that you guys were being assembled by Cody to fill the prophecy that he has decided is coming to term. Well, the Ostrati were just a byproduct of Cool to give you guys a catalyst to gel you all together.
Yeah.
So I remember listening to that. I thought it was a shopping expedition at one point. I mean,
at one point, it turned into one. Trust me. These guys they're nothing if not original. But see, I just use the superhero mentality for all my games, where you're not forced together by fate. Say, like in a Star Trek game where you're all crew. And the whole idea is that you bring them together. There's the call to adventure. They succeed in the call to adventure. They now feel good about themselves. And then maybe even the next one, they'll succeed to some degree. And then there's the trial by fire. And the trial by fire could wind up kicking their ass, or it could cement them together. Currently, you guys are in the middle of it kicking your ass, which I find quite entertaining. But perhaps you'll come out the other side and it'll cement you together. I think so.
I can't see Devere.
Yeah, Devere should never evolve. That would be a bad thing if he evolves as a character, right?
You want him to die, do you?
No.
I mean, I can make sure he does. But no, yes, you're right in that Cody was going around with. He'd had a prophecy. He'd had this sort of these visions and idea, and he was bringing us all together. But it was the we were pretty much bound together by
fate.
But it was that,
or by a crazy guy in a feather robe. It could go either way.
But it was the presence of the Ostradi that pretty much got us.
Well, that was the call to action. You guys. That was your call to adventure, was being basically brought together by Cody, but then having a catalyst that forced you all to work together. Now, this is stuff you learn from doing superhero games, right? I mean, this is the thing. It's one of the problems I've always had with D&D or fantasy games in general, is that there's way too much. We meet in the tavern and off we go to the local dungeon. Yay! We really have no reason to work together other than raw greed, and I like to give you something a little bit more to deal with and something a little bit more of a reason to be around each other, which also allows for the strife to exist. And that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
See, I have no problem with the tavern at the start because
I know you.
As you all know by now, I like quite a low fantasy, and being a Brit, the local pub. I grew up with the local pubs being the hubs of community where you get to know people, you get to make friends, and it was. And it's somewhat lost now, I think, certainly in cities. I think it's probably still there in smaller communities. But the idea of people just sort of getting together over a pint at the end of the day and just wandering down the pub by yourself, not knowing who you'll meet in there, but knowing that you'll know most of the people in there anyway. You don't know who's going to be there, but you'll know somebody. And you just go in there and have a pint and sit down and... I mean, Andy, you'll probably back that up as being.
I actually started. So I'm running season 2 of Stormwreck Isle tomorrow for the next 2 months, and to get people together there, the scenario says, "Oh, you all arrive on the boat at Stormwreck Isle." And it's like, that's a bit boring. So to give them a chance to know each other, I started them off in Neverwinter, where they're looking for a boat to get there. And then they sort of all come together. Oh, okay. Yes, there's a ship that's going there. So they all end up on the boat, and that gives a couple of days where they can get to know each other a bit rather than arriving. So they've got a better idea. The other way that I've done it is the sort of caravan guard type thing, which I did for the higher level game I'm running later in the year, season 12. Which I will prep for by going, I don't know what the fuck you guys are going to do, so I'll just run with it. And that started off on the road to Homlit. They're just traveling together for safety, and things happen. And it went from there. So, starting off somewhere where they have a reason to be there, even if it's not because they all know each other, then they can get to know each other. I think that's the real point, isn't it?
I mean, the start in a pub, you can have that assumption that they do know each other. I think that's the general idea. Having the tavern as the center, because that's where the gossip is. That's where you'll find things out. You'll find the rumors, because that's where people's tongues are loosest after a few drinks. And yes, it's an easy way. It's been done many times. But that's because it does work. It does work if you want to run the type of game that I tend to run when it comes to D&D type games. I've made it quite clear that I'm not generally a fan of really high level play. I tend to like low to mid level play more than anything. Not specifically first level, but sort of 3rd through 7th in AD&D terms and OSE terms. That's pretty much the sweet spot, and generally has been considered to be the sweet spot by most of the community, from what I can see.
And that seems to be the case in just about every version of D&D.
Yeah, I would. I mean,
certainly in 5th, I think it is. You can do the higher level ones, and I say I'm doing that, but at the same time, it starts to lose something where make a roll. Oh, 32. What? No, go away.
See, I'm not a fan of 5th edition, but I don't mind it at low levels. I just think you rattle through those low levels far too quickly.
Yeah, that's my experience with it, certainly.
And I think it falls to bits after about level 8.
Well, John, at one point you said you really like Westerns, right?
Mm-hmm.
At one point you said you like Westerns. You're into the the whole Old West kind of thing.
I like the history of it. I like reading up about the history of it. I'm not so much into the films.
Okay, because I was thinking, you know, there are so many good adventure starts that you could pull from those. Well, you know, I guess originally the Seven Samurai, but you know, a village is under attack, so they come hire people to protect them. Or John Wayne, the Cowboys, where he needs people to help move his herd, so he goes to the local school and takes the tallest boys with him. Or Big Jake, someone kills off a bunch of his ex-wife's people that work at the ranch and kidnaps his grandson, so she has him come get his buddies together and go out and rescue the kid. I mean, most of those stories had some type of people that weren't used to working together suddenly coming together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch a lot of films. I mean, my interest in that is more to do with digging into the history and finding out about the real people and these names that I've heard of through various forms of media, and actually finding out what they were really like. And I find it fascinating. I find it absolutely fascinating how the world was just 140 odd years ago. Just how different that world was. But I like history in all its forms. So that's I'm a nerd when it comes to history. One of my side jobs is I write and host pub quizzes, and I decided I'd do a round on the Wild West. Just 10 questions on the Wild West. It took me about 8 hours to write that round, because I was just going down all sorts of rabbit holes and not finding things I could ask laymen about, but I was finding all sorts of things about really obscure gunfighters that no one had ever heard of, apart from someone who'd really delved into it. It was actually quite difficult to find 10 questions that would appeal to someone who hasn't got more than a passing interest in it.
And one of the most fascinating things about the Old West, I did a lot of research on it at one point, was these newspaper articles where, you know, on a Tuesday, Halakar and Iman threw down in the streets of Silverton, and Halakar gunned down Iman in a blaze of smoke and bullets and blah, 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 blah. And then Friday, Halakar died quietly of a gut wound that he sustained during his blah on Tuesday fighting Iman. And you just see this all the time in these Old West newspapers, these guys having these big, pumped up, glorified fights, and then quietly being mentioned they died like a week or a month later due to the wound from the bullet that hit them. You know, it's insane. It's very cool.
Well, in my area, we've had in history several Indian reservations. They kept getting moved farther and farther away. The more useful things the white folk would find under their feet. But you know, that could be another game type setting. The orcs have been through attrition brought down to just a tiny group, and you're escorting to them someplace way away from civilization, where you're going to give them the land where they can live. Along the way, you learn a little bit of their language. You find out the reason they were doing their predations on your society is because something else has been causing them trouble from the other side. So now you're in a dilemma. Are you going to take them to the reservation? Or are you going to side with them and take out this bigger evil that was causing the unrest in the first place? And now all your first level prison guards are together in an adventure.
Or you could just kill the orcs, because the only good orc is a dead orc.
Hey, experience points are experience points. Doesn't matter where you get them.
Yeah.
If you're a 15th level fighter coming into town and you need 3 more XP to go up to 16th level, nobody's safe.
Bar and ball, brawl.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting. I think this sort of thing, that sort of start, is perfect for a horror game.
I was just going to say that's got Call of Cthulhu written all over it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do like the start, for example, of Against the Cult of the Reptile God, where you arrive in a village ostensibly looking for a missing merchant. You know that he's been through the village, but you don't know even remotely the half of what's actually happening in that village, which is, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Hello, O'Neill Flynn. But yeah, Kabuki Kid N1 is a fun one. It's a very nicely done little village. It's a very, very, very well done little start, and it's so much does hinge on which inn they stay in. But many of us will have played that adventure. But so more examples then. More examples, chaps, of cool ways that you've started games, or games that you've played in have started.
Well, I just printed up those two Lakofka modules that were up for free, and haven't even had a chance to read through them, so I just printed them today. But the blurb on the first one says you and your group are heading out across the desert because some big evil bad guy kidnapped one of your friends. Well, there you go. Your rescue mission. One of the early assignments when my group got out of their little baby town and went to a bigger city so they could actually afford, or so they could actually have access to things like swords and armor and stuff like that. There was a ship that was supposed to show up that didn't. So they had to go try to investigate what was happening with that.
Another Lakofka one. A friend of yours has been murdered. Solve it. That's the assassin's knot.
Yeah.
I know some people. I don't know. It's not the most polished of adventures, but it's an interesting one. It's not flawless by any stretch of the imagination, and the solution is a little bit odd, but it works. It does work.
I failed at that one horribly the first time I ever played it. Again, I was just a young teenager. It was nothing whatsoever like anything we had done before, and the DM wasn't really prepared to run it. And it was just one-on-one. I was running two characters, and he was DMing it, and we totally botched that whole thing. I'd put more of that on the DM because it's one where you have to prepare. You can't just run that one with just a skim read or anything like that. Yeah, that was a matter of, we rode our bikes to the gaming store. We each bought a module that we were going to run for each other. He was going to do his the first night, and I was going to do mine the second. So,
and he bought the wrong one for that.
Okay, let's go.
he bought the wrong one for that.
He was one paragraph ahead of me, the player.
You're saying about sort of the media res beginnings. Most of bringing Bear in, because Bear's a superheroes fan, and almost all of the Marvel superheroes ones start with some big event kicking off. That whole thing, it lends itself to the superhero genre pretty well. Because you are superheroes, you are meant to deal with the extreme nonsense.
It drags characters in, doesn't it? Because otherwise, particularly new players or players who have not played the system before, whatever, if you can do something where they're immediately involved, then it gives them something to hook onto. Otherwise, it can be a case of you're all there. What are you doing? I don't know.
I missed Bear's message about he's got a phone call, so that's why he didn't respond to me, just as I bring in his topic. But yeah, that sort of thing, it fits the superhero genre, doesn't it? Because it's a much more immediate expectation of going out and doing heroic things straight away.
There's a traveler scenario which I've run, and I'd love to play in some way, where it ties in with the Cthulhu one you were talking about, where people don't know who they are when they start. Mm-hmm. And these guys have all woken up in a spaceship. They're in low berths and they're suffering from amnesia, effectively. But just to add insult to injury, the spaceship has crashed, is in water, and is sinking. So they've got to hurry.
Yeah, I did notice. I didn't pick up on it at the time. General Nutt mentioned that he would like a campaign to start with in the way that Forget Me Not Call of Cthulhu 1 starts. But I think you've got to be a certain type of player to accept a pre-generated character that you've got no control.
Can you hear me?
What they are? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
All right. Cool. What's up? How you doing? Nice to
I
meet
got to
you.
bow out and do my lawn stuff. You guys have a good night, and
Yes,
I will
and
hopefully be able to
Brandon,
listen in on Friday.
Have
Cheers,
a good mo.
Take care, Alcott.
I mean, I think you've got to be you've got to be quite you've got to be a certain type of player, and I think you got to have a mature attitude to playing.
Yep, I see it as fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. I mean, that's why I did enjoy the Dark Ages we just did. I've over the years we're playing. The one thing I really enjoyed were tournament games at conventions. Used to be you go there, you pick up a character you've never had before, and you play that character. When it got to the point of it's all going to be living games now, and you can progress your character, and at third level you can now change it completely to something else, but it's the same character. It just turns me off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I do like that. Here's something I've not done before. I'll play it.
Yes. But I think it's something that appeals more to experienced gamers than it does to newer gamers, because we have less aversion to being taken out of our comfort zone. I like to play a pre-gen and see what I can make of it and challenge myself. Because you see it as a challenge as much as anything. Even if that character is something that you really don't gel with, it's on you as a player to make it work. Yeah, and I enjoy the challenge. I've not played through Starstone Kabuki Kid. It's a little bit expensive to buy that, sadly. But I've heard of it. I've heard good things about it as well. Cat related keyboard mischief. Everyone wants to tell me just how many digits are in that number, how many billions it is. Is it? Are we in the quadrillions or the quintillions there? I don't know. But it's a big number. But I would quite happily have an adventure like Forget Me Not to start a campaign, both as the GM and as a player, but I know it's not for everybody. Because
and as you say, I think it's experienced players understand it more. Whereas if you drop that onto someone who's never played before, they are going to be lost potentially.
Yes. And when you start playing a game, one of the first things you want to do when you learn a new game is to create a character for it, and that's natural.
Yeah,
it's totally natural. In fact, that's how a lot of us. We lost Iman again. That's how a lot of us learned the rules to begin with, by creating a character for a game.
Yep.
But obviously, with not knowing what everything does, but you pick it up. You get an idea of what things do through reading through character creation. You can make educated guesses. So, I mean, I would certainly, for those who haven't played Forget Me Not, I would love to run it again on the Discord server at some point. It's magnificent.
You can set it up to torture us, yeah.
Absolutely, and it really does. It really does. It's filthy. It really is. It really is horrific. Truly horrific. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful adventure. And I'm sure Iman will thoroughly enjoy it, seeing as how much he likes his characters being.
What was going on? What happened? I think I'd left at like a bad moment there.
We're back talking about Forget Me Not, and what a wonderful Call of Cthulhu adventure
Call of Cthulhu.
it is.
You know what? I'd still be really up for it. You know.
Yes, Manfred. It is a Call of Cthulhu adventure, and it's the most brutal one I've ever run, both in terms of the horror in there and the desperation for the players. It's just, you're right, General Nut. It's not for the easily offended. Not at all. It really isn't.
Well, I'm absolutely fine then.
You know those you know those sheets they made a few years back with all these hand this to your DM. These are all your things that you don't want in your game. All your trigger things.
Or trigger one, yes. I don't like
Yeah.
that. If it's no bananas, we can't have bananas in this game.
And
I
then
don't like
take
that.
those and put them in on purpose.
I did a video about a year or two ago now where I went through a number of Cthulhu adventures and put ticks in the boxes based on what was in the adventures, and most of them had 4 or 5 ticks, maybe 6 ticks. Forget Me Not must have had 15 plus ticks. It was like, yes, yes, there's that,
Yes.
there's that. Yep. It's just it's relentless.
Hang on. Gay. Yep. Asian. Yep. Gay Asian. Yep.
We're not talking about your Pornhub search history.
No. My Pornhub thing would be much more depraved than that. Come on, let's be honest.
Bah.
Why do you think I like Call of Cthulhu so much?
But no, I will run Forget Me Not again at some point. I've run it 3 times now, and it's just been brilliant.
I'm assuming it gets better for you every time.
Yeah, of course it does.
You never get tired of it.
and worse for the players as a result.
Good.
But
Good. So I'll be getting your full power then.
oh yes, you all would. But no, it's actually a very flexible adventure as well. You might imagine it being quite railroady, but it's not. It really isn't. I mean, General Nut played it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was in one of the groups that played it. Mage played it. Gingerbeard was another one who played in it. So,
Well, and they're all still friends with you, so that's good then.
They're only friends because I've got them tied up in the basement. They talk to me.
They're in the brain jars, yeah.
Yes, Nutty, my really bad American accents. Yes. It is set in America, so I do attempt to do American.
Whereabouts?
Ohio.
Okay, I don't know that one specifically.
No.
It's a very bland accent, I'd say, personally, but having spent quite a bit of time in Ohio, but it's just an American accent. It's nothing very specific.
It's not the Boston one.
Boston? No.
Call of Cthulhu.
And it's not the Bronx. It is just an American accent. I can't put it any other way.
Just a normal, inoffensive, well, if there ever is such a thing, American accent.
I posted something before I joined the stream live. It just occurred to me. If you are going to start the campaign off or the players off, where they're in jail or something else, I said you're basically railroading them, but you need to have a way for them to get out of where they are, which could be a railroad to start with, unless they get really, really creative with it, which is the other thing. And then you can let them loose on the world and follow up on whatever they're doing. But yeah, if you start them off in something, you've got to have a way for them to get out.
Yes, of course, and yeah, you can have 2 or 3 ways. You can have various events happen. Drunken guards, someone slips them something, mysterious benefactor, that sort of all these sort of things can be set up. But they can, of course, the players can think of something else, and you just let them go with it, let them run with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, for me, that isn't railroading. Railroading is a predetermined ending, and the player's actions having no bearing on that.
I mean, if they can't work out a way themselves to get out of it, you present something to them. In that sense, it's railroading.
Yeah.
But just for that instance, just to get them moving.
You're correct there, Kabuki Kid, and I've seen that adventure. Seen that adventure lambasted because of that start, which complete. You can. The adventure's lack of plot. You can.
What's wrong with the Rock's Nest?
They're first level characters. and they're scooped up by a rock and dropped in the nest.
What's a
They have
rock?
to try
A very large bird.
Okay.
Very, very large bird. As in
Like
something
it
that...
will. It'll
Like a
fly away
griffin.
with a cow. No. It'll fly away with a cow. Let's put it that way.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay.
For a snack.
A rock could take on quite a few dragons, and withstand dragon breath and all that sort of stuff. So,
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they've got tons of hit dice, tons of hit points.
Okay.
And they do stacks of damage. They're massive.
What? Even bigger than dragons? And they can withstand dragon breath.
As big as
big as a big dragon.
Yeah.
And it would take a very big dragon to burn a rock to a crisp.
So, like, one-on-one, would you say it's like as fair a fight with a dragon as can be without being...
It depends on the age and the intelligence of the dragon and whether the dragon is a spellcaster. There's all sorts of things that come into it. But
I've just seen Manfred's comment where he's saying, Andy, I'm sorry, man. I think that's because I said I spent a lot of time in Ohio.
Yeah, RPG XR says rocks have a minimum 50-foot wingspan. Yeah, it's about right. So yeah,
me. Okay.
They're big. But that adventure, it just starts a group of a small first level party at the top of a mountain, and the whole point of that adventure is for them to get off the mountain to safety. There's a real lack of there's plot elements hinted at, and it requires a really good DM to sort of make something of the lore on that mountain and just make some, because it's not really spelled out, but it's a wilderness exploration for first level characters that works. So it has its plus points and it has its negative points, and it's the rare first level adventure which is designed for a party of about 4 characters, which was an absolute godsend for me over here with little niche hobby, little group of little people without many friends. It's fun. It's a fun adventure, but it's got its flaws.
So the adventure is literally you get scooped up and dropped on the top of a mountain in a bird's nest, and you got to find your way back down.
Yeah. Basically, that's it. Yes, it had.
It sounds like
you could have one-on-one playing it. Yeah, Kabuki's right.
It sounds like it could be as interesting as you make it, though.
Yes, it's that sort of. It's like the Keep on the Borderlands. Put the keep on the Borderlands, the classic sandbox. You put it in the hands of a bland DM. Most adventures you put in the hands of a bland DM, they're going to be pretty crap. But Keep on the Borderlands will be especially crap in the hands of a DM that doesn't prepare and doesn't flesh it out. Because it is just it's a menagerie, it's a keep filled with unnamed NPCs who just exist. But a good DM will see them as fodder, fuel to make something.
Potential, yeah.
So, potential, yes. And there's a few adventures. I mean, Village of Homlet gives the DM a bit more on a plate to start with, a little bit more flavour to start with, but it's similar in the sense that it can be quite bland if the DM doesn't make something of it.
I mean, with Homlet, if the DM doesn't really push the fact that, there's this moat house, blah blah blah, then they're just going to start wandering around town, wondering what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Mind you, when I started that off, I didn't even let them get to Homlet before things happened and they traced something back that effectively went to the moat house. So they went and sorted that out afterwards. So,
the Eye of the Serpent is mostly aimed at sort of ranger druidy types because it suits them. It really suits them. There's a lot of animal foes in there, and there's a lot of wilderness exploration. So it's if you're playing a one-on-one, the player character is meant to be a ranger, a druid, or a monk, which I thought was an odd choice. Again, of course, they can move quickly, but I don't think it really fits a monk, but a ranger or a druid, ideally. But yeah, I mean, Homlet. The dungeon itself is a fairly generic dungeon, the DM needs to do something to liven it up. I think it's more compelling than, on paper, as it stands, more compelling than the Caves of Chaos. But it's up to the DM. It's really up to the DM.
Yeah.
So, yes, those modules have started how many campaigns?
God.
How many? I mean, I'm looking for numbers, chaps. Here, if you're playing AD&D, is or basic D&D, a likely answer is nearly all of them of that era. Anyway, for people who use adventures, because they were the definitive starting adventures, a starting location, a town, a keep, and a place to go adventuring, and that's what they gave you.
Yeah, I've used Homelet a few times, and I've used Saltmarsh once, which then led into Ravenloft just for fun. So
I've used Saltmarsh 5-6 times. So that is my favorite campaign starter. That had the problem of Saltmarsh itself not being really detailed out in the adventure. Of course, versions of Saltmarsh have been published since.
And the 5th edition
really
one
work.
has corrected things in that sense. They've got more detail of the actual town.
The 5th edition one doesn't make it feel like an old English shipping smuggling port, does it?
No, not really.
No.
But it's something that you can work with, I think, you know.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you one just mentioned Saltmarsh. You had to make it mentioned it, and it mentioned a town council and probably a dodgy person on that town council. That's what it mentioned, and it just let you go with it from there. It was just a couple of paragraphs of text. That was it. Thank Daniel, you star. Who's got those? Who's got those? But is Bear still on the phone? I think he is. Yeah. That's Omen Owl, Saxius, O'Neill, Flynn, Nosorian. There's 4. O'Neill Flynn's here at the moment, and Jonatas Sexas Cardozo. Don't know you, but welcome to membership. Hope you appreciate
exotic name.
Yes. Nice one, Dan. Daniel, are you going to play Mafia Friday? There's a Mafia game this Friday. If you are, click the events tab, please, and just so we have an idea of numbers. Do we have a message from Bear? Please. A message from Bear. Bear says he's still on a call. So it's a long phone call. So we'll let him deal with that. But when you're starting a campaign, I as a DM, I like to draw up a beginning town, a beginning village. It's something I enjoy doing. Never anything bigger. I don't enjoy starting in cities. I think a city is a place to go afterwards. But I like the idea of starting them in a quite a poor environment. I think that spurs them on. It makes them realize the value of a little bit of wealth a little bit more.
And do you like starting at 0 or first level rather than say, okay.
Yes, always.
So I know people who like starting at 3rd, and I think I have mixed feelings about that. I can understand it sometimes, but what was it? Dark Sun started at 3rd, didn't it? Which I never got into.
I think that's the nature of the setting, isn't it? It's meant to be so brutally difficult. Stats were allowed to go up to about 20, I believe, with various racial modifiers. And I think the general idea is that if you're going to pull through such a hardy environment, you will experience something along the way, because it's rough. It's rough. Hello, Daniel.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, fine. You up for some Mafia Friday then? You up for some Mafia Friday?
What's that?
Are you up for some Mafia on Friday?
Yes.
Good. That
Good
takes
man.
us up to 5. That takes us up to 5. I'm just going to check the Discord. I hope it doesn't knock my microphone out, because Discord can sometimes do that. Can I do a midweek geek on how to be a good minimalist GM?
Does that mean with like minimal prep, or
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just spinning it from a few words. Just spinning it from a few words and just a few words of text, maybe. It's difficult. It's difficult to come up with suggestions there. I've managed to get entire sessions out of a paragraph or 2 of text, but it all depends on how the players bite to what I have got or what I'm able to make up on the fly, whether it works or not. It's
Yeah, I think a lot of it would be your improv skills, wouldn't it?
Yeah, which are variable, and I've winged quite a lot. I've done quite a lot, but it depends. It comes down to experience and confidence, and you can only really gain experience and confidence through practice. So it is as simple as that. Speaking of confident and experienced, here's Slan. How are you, Slan?
As he would say, greetings.
Greetings, indeed, greetings. Yeah, Dirty History and Hobbies. I mean, it says I don't really understand why they want to start at level 3. Those are the levels where they don't have non-adventure obligations, leaving a chance to work out who they are. Yeah, I think levels 1 and 2 are very much levels for working out who you are, and I like them to work out who they are through play, rather than through something that has just been hand waved in the background.
Well, that also goes to the backstory that they provide, doesn't it? Is if they provide too much slow, why are you writing all your history there when you haven't had it yet?
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that if you're playing a game like OSE and you're rolling characters up 100% fairly, as we do on my... the only difference I do in my games is on my server is I allow people to roll twice for hit points and take the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Which we've still had characters start with 1 hit point, but we started off. It started off with a lot of characters dying very quickly until everyone sort of settled into the mindset, and I can see people being put off by characters dying very repeatedly over and over and over again. But
sorry, did someone mention me in Bloodborne the other day?
Yeah, that happened a lot.
Was it Slan went through 3 characters in one
Gene.
day?
Gene. I think both Gene and Gingerbeard had quite.
Hasn't Joker been through a few?
He lost 2
Yes.
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, Gingerbeard lost 2 in 5 minutes. Yeah,
You know.
but I think the sense of accomplishment is more if you've been through that, but you've got to be quite resilient. You've got to be quite resilient, and you've got to learn. You've got to learn from mistakes, and something about
Unless
the story
your name's-
games.
Unless your name's in mine and you're playing Call of Cthulhu, then just prod everything.
Yes, go prep then. Go prep then, Manfred. Go prep. Thank you for joining us as always. But and if as a player you're not willing to learn from your mistakes, then I'm afraid it's on you. And if you want to go in and have big stories or whatever from the get-go, then I suppose starting at level 3 is fine then, but it's not the sort of game I want to run. I want the stories to be created organically through play and start small and grow.
That also goes back to what you were saying about people planning their build ahead of the levels they get.
I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah, me too. As you say, rather than organically finding out what they are going to be, who they are going to be as they grow.
Yes. And I think, I mean, a good start to a campaign gives an immediate opportunity to find something out about the characters. And I mean, yeah, I have waxed lyrical, if you can call it that, about the idea of starting in a pub. I don't mind starting in a pub. It's a great place to start. But if you plonk someone in a difficult escape situation to begin with, I think you find out more about the characters more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. There we go.
I've got to admit, that's. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say one thing with character creation. That's why I like Traveller character creation, because you do these 4-year terms, and you can end up as a pretty much a 20-something year old up to a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old, but it takes you through your life, so that when you start playing, it's not all the things you're going to have skills in. Potentially, you can grow later on, but it does make you think about the character as you're creating that character and why certain things happen, and it just triggers the imagination to build your story, your background in a real way. And that would be nice with D&D if you are going to have some sort of background, that the creation process supported that, and it doesn't really.
No, it doesn't.
Beyond the random dice rolls. Oh well, I'm strong. I wonder why that is.
Have you seen Modiphius's Conan? It's got a number.
I haven't seen the system, but yeah,
the character creation in that can be it's quite a flow sort of process. But I find it interesting just to randomly. I've not played it. I've not really read much about the mechanics, but I've made a few characters with it. And if you just randomly roll at each stage, you can get some. It makes your imagination work. It takes you out of that comfort zone.
It's Billy Bear's still on his call, because with the heroic system, and I'm still getting used to that. I haven't read it properly, but he has got a random creation option in there. But he says he doesn't like to use that. Which I'm sure he'd tell us all about if he comes back on. He likes having the idea of this is what your character's going to be, and then building from there. Whereas I'd actually prefer, and I haven't had a chance to do it yet with the heroic, but I prefer to do it randomly, because then it's like, oh well, why is that? And then come up with a story of how something fits.
It's one reason why in D&D, the random stats. I like rolling for my stats, and I like to try and justify reasons for having a low stat here and a high stat there. It's make a Call of Cthulhu character. Snufflegunt's character's got 15 strength. He rolled 111 on 3d6 for his strength. That's the character he's made for the 1920s. So, and when we were going through making it, yeah, he's got 15 strength. He is the weakest possible character at the start. So we've had a chat about why he is like that, and it's given him fuel for role playing his character. And I think he's looking forward to playing that.
Oh yeah, he was really excited. He left me full paragraphs telling me about it, and it was just really sweet,
Yeah. It's his first character he's made for Call of Cthulhu. So.
But I like it because it shows, one, he's invested, and two, he actually cares about his character in the way that you would want him to.
Yeah. I think he's created an interesting character to join you on a Tuesday with that. So he's got some good ideas, which is nice. I hope he can put them into practice, because obviously Horror on the Orient Express is a fairly linear campaign. You've got varying degrees of freedom within each scenario, but it does shuffle you along from one scenario to the next. You can play around with the order of some of the scenarios. For example, there's one I've skipped that I might throw in later. That sort of thing. But beyond that, you are pretty much going from city to city. But if you remember, in Paris, you had a bit of freedom to move around. In London, you had plenty of freedom to move around. Not so much. I think. I mean, Milan left you a little bit sort of out on a limb. Venice is a bit more linear, but it does vary from scenario to scenario. But each scenario, there's different authors along the way. So, my favourite rolling system is 4d6 rearranged to taste. I'll say that now. While I like grittier low level games, I think 4d6 at rearranged to taste gives you some chance of having something that is going to be a cut above. Your average is a little bit above the common man, but you're still not overpowered.
Sorry, 46 take the top 3 for any roll. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I particularly like putting a low score in wisdom. And then being myself.
Yeah.
But no, that's I like. Yeah, when I'm if I'm starting out on a D&D campaign, I will roll random stats. I will not do any point buys or anything like that. I will roll random stats and think, how can I make this work? How can I make this work with what the DM has given me as sort of like a starting premise? So it's my personal preference. And yes, you are correct, Dirty History and Hobbies. This is a fact of life. Yeah. But if I'm playing BECME, BX, OSE, yeah, we're playing 3d6 down the line. Play what you roll, make it work. Slan's cleric in that. I think he's level 3 at the moment, and he's got 4 strength and 4 intelligence. And Slan plays it nicely because he's not bright. He can't read. He can't write. He's no good in combat.
He nearly killed me because he thought I was a zombie.
Yeah.
But
he's too stupid to realize the difference between someone who's unconscious and someone who's dead.
Yeah. Here Stan says it also 7 decks as well, so he really is kind of doing this very well. But that character has survived to level 3 and well on his way to level 4. So sometimes these ones survive. He's got a decent wisdom, from what I remember, and his hit points are okay. So it might be a bit like a Forrest Gump. In that sense.
Pearls like of bags of chocolates.
Yeah.
Okay, Jenny.
Yeah, but that particular character. I'm trying to think of the character's name. Lutz.
Yeah.
Basically, Klutz with the K removed. Yes. 15 wisdom, you've been lucky with the hit point rolls. Yeah, but you've survived. You've survived, Slan. The character's still going strong. So, all power to him. All power to Lutz the Klutz. Yeah. So, I think campaign starts as much hinges on the player's approach to things as the DM. The players' attitudes can make or break how a campaign start works. And as with any of these sort of things, as a DM, it's know your group. Know what will work. Know whether they're mature enough to deal with being pushed into a certain type of situation or a certain type of character creation method or whatever. If you've got newer players, you're better off offering a lot of freedom in terms of characters and a pretty defined story early on. Otherwise, they might feel a bit lost. But if you've got experienced, mature players, then the world's your oyster.
Yeah, the game I'm continuing tomorrow ran a year ago, the first part of it, and it was a mixture of players. 1 or 2 who were very experienced and the others who were not experienced, either because they weren't experienced with D&D or they're just new players. I mean, one player, she's a group of friends. She's actually been DMing, and she'd never done it before. She'd never played before because they wanted to play, and now she's getting a chance to play as well. But I'd done pre-gens for them all, and they just picked what they wanted and went from there. If everyone had been experienced players, yeah, I'd have said, okay, let's roll up some characters. But again, it's that thing of here's a character, work with it, see what you think. Does it grab you? Is it something you can play? And I think that's a valuable lesson for people to take away.
And I mean, also, if you're playing a game with fairly slow power progression, like old school D&D has, then after a few sessions, you could then say to them, "Are you enjoying playing this character, or do you want to make something?" Now you have an idea of how it works, have an idea of how this campaign is going to pan out. Would you like to create something yourself? That's always an option. Be flexible in there. So,
Or
there you go. Daniel?
You would end up with a player like me who hates his dwarven cleric but still plays him. That's sarcasm, by the way.
You don't hate him. You love him bits. You at the start of every session, you try and find a way of making it so that he can take part, no matter where he was at the end of the previous session and who was running that previous session or which part of the world he was in. It's like, is Angus available? You love him to bits, but we like him there because he's strong. He's our meat shield. Yeah. I think we've pretty much hammered the topic, unless anyone has any other any other things they want to bring up. Hello, Christopher. How are you? We've done 2 hours on starting a campaign, and unless Bear, because Bear's still connected in the background, but he has. I think this call's
going on a bit.
Going on a bit. Yeah. So unless he wants to come back and make some more points, I think we're pretty much in rambling phase. If anyone in chat wants to join us, you're more than welcome. I am going to paste the link into chat. That's really brave of me. Really brave of me, because we have 2 spare slots, because Elfbait and Halakar have both had to depart. Just bear with me.
Who's running Saturday morning?
You expect me to be organized, don't you, Daniel? You expect me to be organized.
At least a little more than me.
Since when have I ever been organized?
Exactly. It can't be that hard.
It's either you or Gene.
All right, I'll work something up.
It's either you or Gene.
Are you playing?
Yeah.
Well, if it goes as planned, I'm going to drive you nuts.
Good. I deserve it.
Not on purpose, but you're going to... If I run, you'll understand why.
I said I deserve it for my behavior in the Call of Cthulhu games. I mean, I freely admit I'm thoroughly enjoying tormenting poor little Iman.
And you know what? I feel like the more you enjoy it, the more I eventually start to enjoy it, and you're gonna hate it. You're gonna be like, "Oh, it's not fun anymore."
No, it's been it's been your inquisitive nature and the bad luck with the dice.
Well, to be fair, both of my characters have been very intelligent and very educated. So for me not to be inquisitive would be going against my character.
Yeah, and of course, in Call of Cthulhu, having high intelligence is a double-edged sword.
Yes. Oh no, I understand the madness. Lose more sanity.
Yeah, Andy, you had a moment like that, didn't you, last night?
Yes, yeah. That's what was it? 18 intelligence she's got, and it's like, oh damn! And I understand what's going on. I'm gonna get out of here. I need to wash myself in holy water.
Yes. To give you an idea, in chat, you will know what they've attacked by these things called skin devils, which were creatures that were fashioned out of bits of bodies, and they fought with bowel flails, and the bowels split open and covered whoever they hit in the contents of bowels.
Cool.
Yeah, lovely. And it was that sent poor Eloise running for the nearest. Oh, and Gilles ran off as well.
And Gilles, yeah.
He ran off as well. Yes. I will be live streaming on Friday. I will be. It's a Mafia game on Friday. Hopefully, if we can get enough people, that's the plan. We've got 4 players and me at the moment. Ideally, we need 7 players. Well, ideally 9 players will be best, but 7 minimum, 8 or 9 preferred. So if you want to play some Mafia, if you can commit to a couple of hours on Friday, 9:30 UK time, come and join us and stab people in the back.
And you don't have to be on camera if you're not comfortable with it.
Entirely up to you.
I can't remember. You ran. Did you run one a couple weeks ago?
It was last
Yeah,
month.
you played. You played.
I have to find my character, or do you have it?
Oh no, Mafia. There's no characters.
Oh, okay.
Don't you remember? I just randomly assigned 2 of you as being bad guys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was the game. Yeah. And then they all voted to lynch you. You were a good guy.
I didn't. I never did.
No. You were a good guy. You voted to lynch Manfred in the second game.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Yeah.
Well, he did Mafia in the first game. That's why.
Hey,
And
if
you
you didn't
were
give me a
Mafia.
chance, if I didn't happen to get a chance to exact my revenge that game, I would have done it this Friday. I'd have held on to it for a month, like I'm gonna fucking get you, Manfred.
I will say now, carrying grudges over from one game to another of Mafia is really a recipe for disaster.
You know I'm joking, right?
I know from experience. I play on a message board, and my both me and this one other guy always vote for each other first, straight away to be lynched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who we are in the game. Doesn't matter.
I know what you mean. You just don't like him, so it's always him, even if it's not.
Oh no, it's fun. It's fun banter. It's fun banter. But no. So chat, I'm looking for at least 3 more players. That's a hint. Commit. Come and play. Get yourself on stream. Make yourself look daft with me and Iman and Daniel.
If I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm literally fucking retarded when it comes to this stuff.
So,
I just show up, say some stuff, and then it's over and I leave.
Yeah.
I'll let you into a secret, Iman. That's what we all do.
What?
I mean, this whole being an expert in RPGs and all that sort of stuff is bullshit.
It is.
We spend.
What?
Andy, you're an experienced DM. How much of running a game, when you're running a game, how much of it is bullshit? How much is bollocks made up on the spur of the moment?
About 90%, actually.
Yeah.
I said I was prepping for my game tomorrow. I've been reading through the scenario because it is a published scenario, and I sort of vague idea of what's going on. But most of tomorrow night's session is we've got 2 new players because 2 people have to drop out for this slot at the club. So it's going to be a case of, well, guys, what happened last year? Can you remember? Because I fucking can't. And get them to explain it to the new players what's going on, and getting some, and I'll sort of throw in some of the minutiae that I remember, like, well, case in point, there are harpies involved at the moment. So where do little harpies come from? So I decided, well, they kidnap sailors in this instance, mate with them, and then eat them afterwards. Because why wouldn't they?
That's
So
great.
there's a body of a sailor who's been, let's say his trousers around his ankles, but he's been slightly gnawed on. And there are little baby harpies, and they're so cute, and they murdered them all. So
How many blokes in chat crossed their legs at that description?
But yeah, it's basically particularly the high level one that I've been running since 2015, which is now a high level one. It's a case of I know where you are, and I've got no idea what you're going to do at all, so I'll just wing it and go with it.
Yeah,
and make it up as I go along.
Yes. Coco B. General Nuts just realised his wife is going to eat him. General Nuts clearly has been married to a harpy at some point in his life. Daniel's been married to at least 2 harpies in his life.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're being nice. I would say 3.
And he's currently on his 3rd wife. So, Daniel,
I like wedding cake.
If things come flying at your head now, we'll know. Coco B is entertaining. A small brawl at your school. Did they use AD&D grappling rules? Is that why it took so long? For 90, is that why the brawl lasted 90 minutes?
Oh my God.
Anyway. What have you missed? Well, we're off topic now, Coco. We've hammered out the topic for a good 2 hours.
I was going to suggest on sometime that one the other week doing the random tables. We should do something similar to that, but for something different, not for treasure or whatever, but for something else, because that was really interesting and got the creative juices flowing, I think, from people.
Yeah, it was fun actually.
Yeah. I mean, you could even do it as a let's roll up a dungeon and see what monsters go where, and have suggestions and things.
Who was it? Might have been Saxius. He had started one where it was a random dungeon, but we were picking monsters from the theme folio, but you had to drop it.
I think that was Elfbait was doing that. I think Elfbait was doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem was a lot of the stuff in the theme folio is pretty powerful. It was trying to find stuff for low-level characters.
There's some interesting things in the theme folio.
Svarts and more Svarts. That's the answer. Yeah. That's the answer. Lots of Svarts.
Because I kept going through it over and over trying to find stuff. But yeah, it was. I think I threw Varts in there. There were a couple other things.
Opposing factions of Svarts. And the benefit of having lots of Svarts is you can have lots of fart jokes when people meet.
You after you have a glass of milk,
Yeah. Yes. Otherwise, the whole stream, all you'd hear would be. Burp, 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 burp. Yes. I'm still trying to figure out when Slan met his wife. I mean, you don't take your wife to conventions where Slan is, because I know you two met up last year, and you'll be meeting up this year, and you'll be meeting me. Yes. Canada. So we've got the Games Expo coming up soon as well, haven't we, Andy?
Yeah, 1st of June. Yeah.
And you're not driving, are you? You're not driving, are you?
I have to get up at a stupid hour in the morning to get a train at 6:33 from Bournemouth Station. So yay! And I should be arriving about 9:20, 9:40, I think, at the NEC. So, yeah.
Iman, I still haven't approached my wife with the idea of you possibly kipping on my floor. I haven't dared yet. She's currently arranging a funeral, so it's really not a great time to even mention it. So,
mate, like I said, don't worry. I've got a car.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to get a shed installed first so Iman can just sleep in the shed because he'd be used to that?
Well, we've got a shed, but there's no room in it.
Sleeping in there, that'd be a first, even for me.
Yeah. I'll try and I'll have to wait till after the funeral, which is in 2 weeks. So I don't know.
Mate, honestly, like I said, no pressure. It'll just be, be fun to see a little more into your life.
You don't.
The man
Do you really want to
behind the
go
geek.
there?
You don't. No.
What, you're telling me that I wouldn't want to sit in that man cave with you and do some gaming?
There's only be the two of us, though. A proper game would involve 5 or 6 people around a table, bickering, spilling drinks over each other, farting, and cracking bad jokes for 4 hours, 5 hours. Well, isn't that what happens at every face-to-face game?
That sounds about right. Hey, we can get a little party going. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, this is true as well. Yeah. Yes. Especially if he brings the blue dressing gown, which we have seen him in on a Friday night.
Not a minute right now. You just can't see it.
Good. It doesn't mean turn your camera on and show us. We've seen it. But yeah, I think the Fiend Folio's got some interesting beasties in it. Yeah, the Death Knights are great.
Yeah,
and when you go back to 1981-82, Drow were great back then.
And then they ruined them with Grizz.
They've just been overused since. The Penangalan. I've mentioned the Penangalan many times.
Oh,
yeah, they're pretty neat.
Yes.
Why does that name ring a bell? Is it something you sent me a picture of once?
Probably.
Like a brain with a beak and tentacles.
Oh yeah, I remember that thing.
Oh, that's the Grell. The Grell is the brain with the beak and tentacles.
Okay,
Penangalan is the flying woman's head with all the entrails.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
It detaches from the woman's body and then does it at night. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one as well. That one's fucked up.
Is that Indonesian or something like that?
I think so. Yes,
it is.
Yeah.
What I love about all the D&D books is just how many of these creatures are dredged up from obscure folklore that we would never have otherwise discovered along the way. So many of them. The Key Rin is from folklore. A lot. Penangalan.
I recognise that one.
Yeah, there's the traditional mythological creatures, the chimera, the griffins, and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot
taken from like all over the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. They have. Yeah, completely. And I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. So
I've been reading a couple of books on myths and legends of England, or folklore of England, and I was amazed as I was going through sort of how many things I recognised. Oh, that's been used in D&D. That's been used in D&D, and it wasn't necessarily things I was aware of, except because it's a name I recognised from, monster manuals or whatever, and then they go back to the. And in some cases, they're more frightening in the legend than they are in D&D. So
yeah, oh yes. I mean,
to get toned down for D&D.
I mean, just take a look at some of the things that are in deities and demigods. Some of the
good god guy.
Around where I live, there's a hill called Pendle Hill, and that's Pendle Witches.
Yep.
Yeah. That's famous, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember trying. There's a beer, Pendle Witch's Brew.
I can see Pendle Hill from my house, basically.
I've been drunk on Pendle Witch's Brew on a few occasions. It was a common guest ale in one of our local pubs in Leeds.
Oh,
yeah. It's quite a popular one that was. Yes. And I'm guessing a lot of it went into novels because fantasy authors would have read all of that sort of stuff as well and got their inspiration from it.
Yep.
Life imitates
Very
art,
much
and
so.
art imitates life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aha, he's back.
Hey, Bear.
I am back.
On phone
Oh.
call.
Daniel's here. It's business.
How you
It's
doing,
good.
Bear?
It's good stuff. I can't say anything until the 15th of May, but watch the Four Color Cafe on the 15th of May. It's very cool.
We
Excellent.
await with bated breath.
We've wobbled off topic. We've wobbled.
Shall I be
completely
the sax for the evening and get you back on topic?
off. You can do if you want.
Yeah, that
Sorry, what?
spreadsheet out.
Yeah, get a spreadsheet out exactly. We talking about. I've recruited the sax to help me with heroic when we get our money to make sure the money goes to all the right places by him being our Excel sheet guy.
Nice.
Oh yeah, if you want to make sure your gold's going the right place, get a Dane. Always get a Dane. They're meticulous.
Are you in shill mode there?
Am I in? Yeah, I'm in shill mode. Yeah, we're in the last 30 days, so I'm back in shill mode.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yay!
you are welcome to shield your product. I've backed it.
I know you did, and I
Yep.
thank you for that. I thank you
Yes.
for that very much. I'll give you the link if you want to share it to the crowd. If anybody wants, if anybody hasn't backed it or hasn't had enough hearing about it at this point in time, let me know.
Yeah, get it out there.
Yeah. Shield your link.
There you
Shield
go.
your link.
Well, all
Back
we're
to
doing is basically it's
Heroic.
heroic, the role playing game. Hang on, my chair went down. I got to put it back up.
And for those who don't know, he's taken the core of Marvel superheroes.
So what we did, Mr. Man, is we took the Marvel Superheroes Advance game from TSR back in the 80s, and we've continued the conversation, and we've evolved it, we've updated it, but it is still 99% compatible with the original. In fact, all you're going to have to do is make a couple of note changes of stuff. You could really probably just take a character directly from the book and play them right away in the system without much issue. We're backing on backer kit right now. Our goal was 15,000 Canadian. We're coming up on 25,000 for the second time, because as anytime you crowdfund, you hit a number and then some people cancel, and then you hit a number and some people cancel. So hopefully we'll get the second time, which unlocks a stretch goal. Never expected it to get this far, and basically to prove that it can't go any further, I've given now stretch goals up to 50,000. We have 28 days left. We're not going to hit that. That's fine, because all that matters to me at the end of the day is making sure we hit the absolute basic game and get that in your hands. Got some adventures that are being written right now for us. One is the introductory adventure that comes with the game. Another one is a stretch goal adventure. And then there's 2 more adventures that are going to be written that will be published later. It's print on demand. Nothing gets shipped from us, so you don't have to worry about that. What you will get is either the PDF, if that's all you take, which at this point in time, by the way, and I say this everywhere now, people who only want PDFs are my favorite people because they don't incur me extra cost. And by not incurring me extra cost, when you take a PDF at this point, all that money goes to making sure we can cover all our costs and making sure we're not running on razor thin margins as we already are. But if you want a print on demand, what you'll get is you'll get a free POD coupon from drive-through, and all you'll have to do is pay the shipping at that point in time to get it delivered to you. So we're not shipping a damn thing. So you don't have to worry about that craziness that happens with crowdfunding where people wind up not shipping out product. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome. We're pretty proud.
Or as what often happens, it comes through and it says, "Okay, it's all backed. You've all paid for it and everything, and now we just need another $30 from you to get it shipped to your door."
Yeah, exactly. Well, in this case, you will pay Drive-Thru RPG the $20 to ship it to your door.
Yeah,
and that's the best way.
But you've been upfront about that from the start, so.
Oh yeah, dude. It's based on the advice of our backer kit representative, we have put it all over the place. This is a digital product. We ship nothing. You will pay for shipping on fulfillment from, that kind of stuff.
And drive-through are very good at their printing and shipping. The quality's good.
They're very good. I wanted to use Lulu because I think Lulu's quality is better, but Lulu does not have a system for fulfillment coupons. So Lulu's mentality was, well, what you can do is you can just take that person's thing, order the book for them, and then bill them for the shipping yourself. And I'm like, no.
Oh my God, that gets complicated.
That's just insanely complicated, and I don't want to have to do that. So I'm going to stick with drive-through. I will throw it up on Lulu eventually for people who want to get the better Lulu quality printing, because I think Lulu does print better than drive-through, but what have you? Grumpy Old Slans, what you're saying is PDFs are great to cover fixed costs. PDFs cost us nothing. That's the point, right? If I sell you a PDF, well, I've already produced the game. The PDF is just a question of me going click and sending you a PDF. There's zero cost to me on that. If you want to print a book on demand, I got to buy at my cost the POD book for you. So that's an extra cost I have to put out. Now, we've folded that clearly into the cost of the book itself when you back it, like we're not giving it away. But it is one of those like, oh, that adds a number to my outgoing versus my incoming, and that can get pricey after a while. Still be able to cover it, but PDFs give us a cushion, which is a really nice place to be right now.
I ordered a physical product. Sorry, man.
I know you're a madman. That's okay. Love you for it.
Yeah.
There you go. There's my pimping for today.
I'm not good at reading PDFs, but anyway, that's why I've done that. But hey, what just as you went on to your call, we were talking about starting starting games in the middle of something big happening, and I made the comment that's if you're into superhero type games, that is a very typical way to start those, because you throw the heroes straight into a potentially heroic situation for them to be heroes.
I'm sorry, ask that question again.
It wasn't really a question. It's just a statement I made. I just wondered whether you agreed with it, want to expand on it in any way. I was saying if you start a campaign with a big event happening, that's often a good way to start a superhero campaign, because it gives them an immediate opportunity to do their thing, to
Disagree.
be the heroes. Do you?
Yep.
Okay.
So one of the things that makes a superhero game real is when the players are invested, right? And they have to be invested in their characters. They have to be invested in their superhero team. They have to be invested in the setting. They have to be invested in being heroes. It's not Murder Hobo. There's no treasure. There's no experience points. They're going to level you up. You're playing superheroes. You got to be willing. You got to be the kind of crazy person who puts on a costume, goes out into the world, and puts their life on the line to protect people who will probably never thank them for it. It's a very specific breed of cat at that point in time. So what I find works best is to give them a small, focused event that is theirs and theirs alone, that brings them together. What I was talking about earlier about cementing them together. And when they have that success, they suddenly get maybe a little celebrity out of it. They get a little bit of celebration. People notice them. And then maybe they do a couple more adventures where they kick some bad guys' butts, make a few enemies for later. And then we go to the trial by fire, as I mentioned. The trial by fire is, someone might die. In this issue, an X-Man dies. That type of thing. A favorite NPC might turn villain. The city might betray them. They might find out that the corporation that they've made a deal with to back them is actually an evil secret society, like a Hydra or something like that. And now they might get torn apart as a team, or they're going to go through it, come out the other side, survive the trial by fire, and be forged steel moving forward. Then you throw big events at them, because now they have feet under them. They have a base to stand on. They don't feel overwhelmed by it. They've got the idea in their head, we're goddamn heroes. We're going to face this thing. You start them off, you can, but if you start them off with a big event, you run the risk of them having no investment, characters becoming selfish, cowardly, out for themselves only, and not going to worry about everything else. You can run into all these sort of problems that can crop up that are normal in other games, but in superhero games can be anathema to the theme and can be death to the campaign.
I played a little bit of Marvel superheroes in my teens, but we only ever played it with using the established heroes that already existed in the Marvel world. We never went into creating our own characters. So I'm guessing my experience there is a little different in that we were playing the part of established teams.
That's the thing. That was the thing with the Marvel thing. All the adventures for Marvel were based around, you're going to be the X-Men, you're going to be the Avengers, you're going to be Thor, you're going to be all these regular characters. They never made adventures other than the League of Their Own, Avengers Coast to Coast franchise, which is the adventure in the Avengers Coast to Coast book, where you play a bunch of heroes who are auditioning for an Avengers franchise in your city. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head where you played your original characters. Otherwise, all the adventures were play people who exist. That's different. Yeah. I'm going to play Wolverine. I know exactly how Wolverine behaves. I've watched all the X-Men. I've read the comics. I'm going to be Wolverine. But I'm playing Dogman. And Dogman's a mercenary who fought in the war, and now Dogman's on the streets taking crime for the little man. He's going to take crime down and protect his neighborhood. Hey, aliens are invading. Great. Well, I beat them out of my neighborhood. Now we're going to go attack the main hive. I'm good. I mean, you're good.
Dogman's special power is cocking his leg and urinating on
Yes, of
lampposts.
course. This is why you and I will never play superheroes together. At this point, the character needs another motivation other than just I exist to go forward and go. Now that my neighborhood's protected and that was the focus of my character, what impetus is there for me to go attack the main hive other than it's what superheroes do? But by building up to that event, where Dogman has now fought alongside the other heroes, he's had his ups and downs, he's established relationships with them, they've gone
He's
through
marked
the
his
trial of
territory.
fire. He's marked his territory, he's chewed his toys, he's been a good boy, and now he's in it to win it. And you know what? All I care about is Dogtown, but you know, you're my mates, you're my teammates. Let's go get that alien hive together. You know what I mean? And
You
that's
gave me
the
treats.
psychology.
And he wants his Scooby
Yeah.
snacks. Yeah.
He wants his
Yeah.
Scooby snack. If you could scratch him right behind the ear, that would make the deal.
Yeah.
If the hot mental telepathy girl promises him belly rubs after the fight, he's in. You know, like
Absolutely.
so. That's I'd say is the only caveat for me. But if you're just playing a one-off, nothing wrong with doing a big event to bring everybody together. That's actually can be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Good point.
Consider me schooled on superhero games.
It's my thing, bro.
I know.
It sucks that it's my thing. I hate that it's my thing, but there it is. It's my thing.
The only superhero game I've run in the last 37 years was running my face-to-face, my old Friday face-to-face group through the Day of the Octopus.
Oh wow, yeah. That's a classic.
That was it. That's all I've done in terms of superheroes. For those who don't know, Day of the Octopus was the adventure supplied with the original TSR Marvel superheroes.
The yellow box. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I have it up on the shelf.
Yes.
I got it up on the shelf.
And you
So
played
tell me
Captain
about
America. You played Captain America, you played Captain Marvel, you played Spider-Man, and you played The Thing. Nobody wanted to play the girl, Captain Marvel, but she was the most powerful one by a mile.
Oh, yeah.
Insanely powerful character.
Yes. Insane. Yes.
Power stunt factory, that character. I swear.
Absolutely. But no one wanted to play her. No, I don't want to be because we were teenage boys. I'm not being the girl. I'm being Spider-Man. I'm Captain America. He's cool. Yeah. I want to smash things. I'm the Thing. Yeah.
That's fair. Boys will be boys.
Oh, bear.
What?
Question from Slan.
Well, the way superhero games start with a hero creation event, the PCs are hit by. You can do that. That's called the common origin, right? So that's your Fantastic Four. That's your what was the name of that group from the new universe that were all in a bus or something? They got hit by cosmic energy and they all got powers. That can be absolutely done, but it's up to you. In fact, one of the adventures that's being written, Echo of Shadows, is that. It's basically an event makes the players all into heroes, and then they have to go and do this whole adventure to go through it. So yeah, absolutely that can be done. In fact, we are doing it.
So you begin as nobodies. Brilliant. I'd probably play that.
You're not allowed to play superheroes with me, Bubba. You're into way too much camp for my tastes.
Way too much camp.
Yeah, you like camp. I don't.
I don't
Hence
mind it. I think
your dog man cocking his leg comment, for example, being a instinctual go-to, right?
yeah, the toilet. Nice bit of toilet humor as well.
No, it's camp. It's silliness. It's goofy. It's Silver Age. It's so very Silver Age. And it's also very modern age deconstructionist as well.
all these long words.
Sorry, you're talking to a nerd about his nerd button.
He's beating you down with verbosity.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Look, I know what I like, and I like what I like, and I designed a game to do what I like, and that's. What
I will admit, I do.
And I respect that.
I find camp humor funny.
Yeah.
and we play games, have fun, don't we?
Yes, but we can have fun in other ways too. For example, in the Palladium game, what do we prefer? Do we prefer acting like goofballs, or do we prefer the humor to come out of the situations the characters find themselves in?
Well,
No,
has
don't take any shots.
Has Devere been acting like a goofball?
Not at all. But the comedy that Devere has engendered has been amazing because of his behavior. That's organic comedy. That's cool.
Yeah, it becomes as a result of our characters interacting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't force it to be really funny. It's got to become natural, hasn't it?
You would think, but there's a ton of players out there who think that they're the funniest thing since sliced bread.
For me, the feel of your campaign, though, if I'm respecting your material, in that it doesn't have that sort of camp humor about it.
No.
I think a bit of dark humor, definitely, and we then interact and hopefully entertain people along the way with our interactions, and some of them have been funny.
Sliced bread's hilarious, Straw Piglet. I honestly believe that organic situational humor is the best humor, right? The stuff that happens in the moment that makes you laugh. That stuff to me really, really works really, really well.
Also, what makes us laugh is when the dice really make him up.
That's fun.
Yes.
Yep, and you can mention it until the day we both die, but you know what? I'm not going to stop playing.
Because we've laughed quite a lot in our Call of Cthulhu games, and
not always at my expense, thankfully.
No.
But the thing with that is that's humor from horror, and that's necessary. You know what I mean? That's really necessary because let's be honest, horror is the thing that wears on us the most, which is why when I watch a horror film, I don't want humor because it deflates the horror, it deflates the tension, it deflates the scare immediately. So if you're going to do that joke in a game, if I'm playing a game with you and your character, you're doing comedy in the middle of the horror game, as soon as everyone starts laughing, I'm going to hit you with the meanest horror moment you can fucking think of. When you relax,
but that's what it's for in a film as well, isn't it?
Boom, you know.
Yeah, but that's what it should be in a film as well, because
it isn't, but it should be.
Yeah, the comedy happens, something there, and then suddenly it all turns on its head.
And Call of Cthulhu games turn on their head quite quickly.
Right. Yeah, whenever Manfred decides to fight whatever the fuck is in front of him. And John's like, okay, then.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay, then, roll.
As Slan says, what humor is for, to heighten the apparent level of horror. And but it's like a nervous, dark humor as well.
Well, it's one of the problems the Marvel movies have right now, right? The biggest problem with the Marvel movies is that ever since Thor Ragnarok, they've been playing for the humor constantly in every tense situation. Someone makes a quip. It's the Joss Whedonism mentality. They make a quip, they make a quip, they make a quip. And it deflates the intensity of the situation. It deflates the how do I put it? The seriousness, the emotional investment for you as the viewer. So let's take a moment. Take a moment from Captain America, not the first one, the second one, where he meets Falcon, Sam, for the first time. They're jogging around the reflecting pool. On your left, and we laugh. When we watch it, we laugh. But in Endgame, when Cap is facing Thanos and everything's going to shit, and his radio crackles, and you hear Sam go, on your left, and then everybody shows up for the fight, you fucking swell in that moment. You go, whoa, yeah, man. That's good fucking writing and use of humor as a transitional medium. It's really cool. Now, I know it's a role-playing game. It's not a movie, but you can achieve things like that in role-playing games. You can find those moments. But if someone's sitting there just trying to be a goofball and they're just trying to have everybody pay attention to them like they're the class clown, they are the antithesis of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a big difference. As I say, like in Age of Ultron at the start, the assault on the castle, and Iron Man tries to go through the barrier and goes, shit. And Cap says language, and that is hilarious.
Yeah, but it's in the moment. It's organic to the characters.
It's in the moment, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the funniest moments in the Palladium game was when, just seemingly out of nowhere, Hungar started throwing my paranoia about my armor at me.
So rusty.
He did it. He did it at the right moment. The first time he did it at exactly the right moment and the right manner.
Yeah,
and
but then he hit it too many times.
Yeah,
he
That
did
was
a
the
little
problem.
bit,
He
yes.
abused it. He became a whacking stick. You know what I mean? The comedy devalued with each extra iteration of it. That's the danger of comedy.
I would argue it gets better to a point, and then it starts to devolve.
Well, okay,
There's
maybe
like
the
a
first
like
four
a
times.
there's like a I don't know. Maybe 3 is enough, and then after that it starts to.
Some
Comedy
people
isn't
don't know
three.
when to stop.
That's the other thing. They say the secret of comedy is repetition, but they also say that the secret of comedy is repetition. So what are you going to do? At the same time, they say 3.
I thought the
Always
secret
did.
of comedy was
Repetition? Yeah, I've heard that. too.
timing.
Secret of comedy is and then you go on
Yeah.
for the conversation for 5 minutes. Go timing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's the way you do it. But yeah, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. There's no objective truth to any of this. I just prefer a game where the characters are serious and the comedy comes out of the situations.
Yeah, you can't force it.
Yeah.
I ran a game many years ago at a convention. It was D&D based, but it was Discworld. And there was one scene where one of the wizards was telling someone that they could do fortunes by reading the veins of blue cheese. And it was just something where we had tears rolling down our faces because it was so funny at the time. You know, it fit so well. It was ridiculous and it was hilarious. But it wouldn't work if you tried to force it.
Quite. And it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't in the moment either.
Exactly.
John's too busy playing with his beard.
I've got to stop doing that. It's because these curly bits on the side tangle, and I just sit here and pick at the tangles. And
do you not have the wax that you can make it look proper?
The beard has to. Most of it has to come off in 2 weeks. I've been told.
Yeah.
For the funeral, I've got to be tidy. The wife does not want a hobo sat next to her at the funeral. That's what she said.
Honestly, John, if it has to come off in 2 weeks, I would do it in 1 week. That way, you're gonna have dry skin. That way,
That's true. That's true. It's not all going to come off. She has said you can keep it small and neat. I'm like, okay, I will do that. But
that works.
Yeah. So that's fine. But no, this was just a bit of an experiment to see if I could do it, and I have. So I'm quite happy with that. I've never grown a big
Can't believe it's
beard
taking you
before.
this long to find out, though.
I've never had the patience.
What do you mean patience? You don't have to do anything. It just does itself.
Well, to be honest, in the past, it's more been the wife has moaned about it whenever it's grown beyond a certain length. When I've just been lazy and not shaved before, so I've just to save my ears. It's been like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair.
There was an inappropriate joke that had gone with that, but I'm not saying anything.
I'll be as inappropriate as you like. We're in the last 12 minutes of the stream.
Moaning
All
because
friends
of the
here.
beard? No, I'm not going to get that.
Oh,
We're in the last 12 minutes and Daniel's still awake? What the hell?
Yeah, I know. Hey, I was doing yard work. So.
You can grumble if you want, but you ask for it, John.
Yeah.
Like I care.
Sorry, I don't know the name of the person beside you because this grumpy slan comment is making all the names disappear. Nice to meet you.
It's Andy.
Oh, hey, Andy. I'm an Andrew. You're an Andy? I'm a Drew, not an Andy. Nice to meet you. But just call me Barrett.
He's have you ever seen
We've
comments
been on
about,
before. Yeah.
Comments come up from Andy Hewson in the.
I got it.
Yeah.
I figured it out. Look at that.
There we go.
And I've annoyed you
Yeah,
by
smart
backing
guy,
for print
yeah.
on Heroic, so
Sorry, was that?
I've annoyed you by backing for print options on Heroic. So
Yes, you did, and that didn't annoy me at all, sir.
Yeah, Andy's been a regular in chat for a while and has started playing Call of Cthulhu with us on a Tuesday night in the current.
Yeah, he also gets to delight in my my misery.
Yeah, I hear all these tales of this Call of Cthulhu game, a game I will never play. Thank you, but it sounds like you guys are having a blast.
It has its
enjoying it,
moments.
Yeah, John is
Has its
very
moments.
much enjoying because of the torturing aspect of the play.
Much like Cyberpunk, it's a game made for the narrator.
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. I do quite enjoy it, and I quite enjoy how much I have to make up and how much it sort of reveals my inner nature at times. Anyway.
But the thing is, it helps because all of us, or most of us at least, lean into it. So you know that helps things. You lean into how sick and depraved and horrible and undescribable things are, and we lean into like how our characters react to it.
You, Manfred plays the hothead. You play the one that pokes everything, and Andy tends to play. It's like an innocent. So I think.
Pretty much, yeah, sort of. He's had some experiences which he can't explain, and he's now getting more experiences that he can't explain, and he's starting to change. I think certain things are happening.
Yes, it comes across as a very sort of an innocent young man who, really doesn't quite fathom what's going on around him all the time, and his innocence is being slowly pecked at.
Yeah, his world is slowly falling apart around him.
This is why I like the character in the Palladium game, Lamont.
Say again, sorry, Beth.
I said this is why I like your character in the Palladium game. It's not so much that he's innocent, so much that he's figuring out not everybody's what he thought they were, which I think is kind of nice.
Well, my character is normally very stoic and reserved, but you know what Sir Devere said, just you really got to him. The only people who are allowed to question him like that are his mum and dad, and his mum's no longer with us. So
Devere definitely has a stick up his ass.
He's meant to.
Yes. Yes, he's got quite the pole.
Yeah, and if he carries on, he's gonna have a sword up his ass. And that's the kind of humor we want, guys.
Yes. All right.
Given what Hungar has done, I should have suggested he play a wandering jester. You know what I mean? It would have been right up his alley. He would have had fun with that.
Yeah. Yes, he would have done that. He's out of hospital now, so
yes, he is.
Are we penciled in for a week and a half?
We're penciled in for May 11th. Yes.
Yeah. Good.
I know when I can then log on and have my laughs watching you guys play. That's excellent.
Yes. So, chat. We've got about 5 minutes left. Any questions for my esteemed panel here? Or are you just happy with us talking?
I've got one for Andy. Are you part of Bear's Discord, Andy?
No.
Oh, okay. You could be. That you can keep up to date with Heroic and Palladium and all the other stuff.
It's you know what? I'm gonna give you guys the give me a second. We'll leave it for 7 days. Generate a new link. Copy. Here we go. I'm gonna put it in the private chat. You can share with everybody if you want. John, anybody wants to come join the Discord? Come on over. Just remember, we're not a bunch of grumpy old men arguing about the world. We have people of every religion, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, what have you, as members, and we are open to all of that, and we do not discriminate or be assholes to each other.
Cool.
If you want to do that, there's plenty of Discords for you out there. Go join them.
And you're all welcome to join my Discord, which is a place where we play games. And as with Bear's Discord, we've got members there from Britain, Canada, USA, Australia, Jordan, Germany, Sweden, Denmark, Mexico, India, all sorts,
Yeah.
all sorts. People from all over the place. And we just play games. We don't talk politics or anything like that. We just play games.
No, we don't either.
No.
We have a community. This is the point, right? This is the point. We are the Society of Role-Playing Gamers. That's what we're there to be, and that's what we're supposed to do. Have fun.
The simple rule is just don't be a dick. That's
Well, no, I'm a dick. You can be a dick. Don't be an asshole. And furthermore, don't be a pussy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
an
no,
adult.
that's fair.
Be an adult.
Yes.
If you have a problem with someone, send them a private message and say, "Hey, boss, I didn't really appreciate what you said there, but I'm hoping you didn't really mean it the way it came across." Solve your fucking issues yourselves. Don't make public spectacles out of them. I know. Whoa, Bear, what the fuck?
Whinge, 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 moan, moan, moan. He said, rah, rah, rah.
Exactly.
Yes. Political gaming, yes. Gaming politics, no.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, my MERP game at the moment is it's based around the politics of Cardalan, and
No
they're
one
trying
looked at
to
Cardalan.
get some. They're trying to get some very sort of fractured little semi sort of states, little with their local lords to work together, which has proven to be quite challenging. Seeing as the first time they started working for one of them, he tried to get them to assassinate another one. They really love each other. They really, yeah. It's Cardalan in 1640 of the Third Age, when it's 200 years after the kin strife, the Dunedain, it's all fractured, and yeah. There are usurpers. There are there's all sorts. It's a juicy time.
Yeah.
And I think we're coming towards the end of the stream. I think it's time for shilling. So, Andy, you don't have a channel.
I don't. No. I lurk and I come on here occasionally and we talk bullshit. I mean, you know.
Yes. Yes. Which is what we'll do. Which is what we'll be doing at the expo at the end of this month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Daniel, you don't have a channel either.
No, I do not. Between work and the house and kids, I don't have time. I've mentioned it. I think you and I talked about me starting one and what it takes, but just haven't gotten around to it. You know.
Well, I say there is a cost involved. For those who don't know, I bought myself that today. That's a new recording
Yeah,
mic.
there is that. Yeah.
No good for live streams or anything like that, because it only works when it's really close to my mouth. But it's going to make my video recording so much easier. We'll come to Bear in the end, because Bear's already had one big shill. Iman, do you do your shill?
Hi, Intellectual Quandary. Mostly video game stuff. I live stream Bloodborne at the moment on Sundays, so if you like your Lovecraftian stuff, check it out. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. And Bear, do you want to shill again, or have you done your fill of shill?
I ain't got no shills left to give, baby. Tomorrow night, GM Cody, Palladium Fantasy, me, Hungar, Wolfheim, and his friend Sarah is joining and taking over the Elf NPC. Good times to be had by all, and if you like to hear me do gruff and say the word fuck a lot, this is the game for you.
And of course, I'm the old geek, and I turn into a pumpkin around midnight, which is about now, which means I'm going to have to go. I've been I've been doing a bit of video gaming lately, playing classic old RPGs. We have these chats every Wednesday. We read Choose Your Own Adventure books on a Friday, and we occasionally play a game of Mafia, which we're hoping to do this Friday, if we can get a few more people. So if you are free on Friday evening, it might be afternoon for some people, it's evening my time, then come along and play Mafia and stab each other in the back and have some fun. That is the plan. That's what we're here for. We're here.
It is a good time.
It
I
was
enjoyed
good.
that last session.
That was
That
good,
was
wasn't
good.
it? Yeah. Thank you everyone in chat. I can see we've got Dirty History and Hobbies still with us. Dirty History and Hobbies has a channel. Grumpy Old Slan is still with us. Grumpy Old Slan has a channel. From the Hilt is still with us. From the Hilt has a channel. And I'm scrolling up. They're the ones who've done all the talking recently. I can't see anybody else with a channel who's posted recently. Oh, Gene plays some cool songs on his channel. Doesn't talk about games. But I'm running out of people with channels. We were joined earlier by Elfbait. Elfbait has a channel. Also on the stream earlier was Halakar, who just infests my channel with his trolling. He always behaves himself really well when he sees his face on the stream, but he's very, very naughty in chat. But he's a lot of fun. We always like having Halakar around. And so that's it. That's it. If I've Tien Tori was here earlier. Check out her channel as well. And if I've missed you out, I'm sorry. Cody was here earlier. Cody's got a channel. I'm lost now. I'm completely lost, so I'm going to go.
And it is
Have a good
pumpkin
night,
time.
everybody.
It is pumpkin time. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you on Friday. Good night, all.
Thanks,
for having
guys.
us.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, Brits, I have a question for you.